YouTube thing, it's got like I've got to manage my broadcast, then I've got to press start streaming, then I've got to press go live, and it's all a little bit more confusing.
Yeah, for like Twitch, it's like press the button, you go live. For YouTube, it's like answer my riddles 3.
It's like if I press a button that says start streaming, it should mean I start fucking streaming.
But Lucas, that'd be too simple.
But it kind of does start you streaming, but I don't know what the distinction between like start stream and go live is, so you just got to press them both, and I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go. But we are, of course, live now, and thank you everyone for waiting in chat. I see quite a few people already just like going in there, so we've got a nice little opening gambit of people watching live already, so thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I like how they just assume it was technical issues and not just... sometimes things don't start exactly on time.
It was just I was making sure that I check things like of the week and which wiki won last week and make sure my pogs were up to date and stuff for my intro, so it wasn't necessarily technical problems, more Lucas problem. But we literally like finished recording a couple of episodes, like 10, 15 minutes ago, and straight into the podcast. So it's like, it was just that thing of like, we recorded a little bit longer than we planned on.
You can say it, our lives are so difficult.
They're so difficult, Carl. Welcome to the Wiki Weekdays podcast. I'm your host for this week's episode, Lucas Holland. As always, it brings me a great pleasure to introduce my lovely co-host for the week, Karl Smallwood.
Hello.
And it always gets me that I write down like for the week as if you haven't been my co-host for every single episode.
You know what? One day, like it's gonna boot up an episode. I'm not here.
One day there might be a guest on or something, right?
There might be a guest.
We never know.
If it gets to the point where we can have guests, that'd be nice.
Yeah,
it'd be nice to have guests.
It would be, yeah. But like, you know, it's one of those things of, it's always been a thing of like just me and you, but if there were collaborators that we wanted to work with that wanted to appear here, it would be nice. But like, also
any famous people watch this, let us know.
Yeah, you know, if like Danny DeVito's favorite podcast is this podcast, we'll happily have you on, Danny.
Yeah.
And I know it is his favorite podcast. It definitely is.
More likely it'll be someone else. It'll be another content creator.
It'll be Danny DeVito, Carl. You know, that's the thing. We've got a dream. We've got to put our aspirations like right up there, right?
So yeah, you shoot for the stars because either way, or aim for the stars. Either way, you'll land someone in space and die.
And the issue is just trying to avoid the ones that like message miners,
which is a lot of content creators now. It's a lot of people gave me shit for like being so insular as a content creator. Like, why don't you collaborate or reach out to other people? It's like every passing month there's new news. It's like my decision to remain completely insular and isolated from the rest of YouTube as a whole just proves that I'm the smartest person in the world.
You know what you kind of sound like right now, though, Carl?
What's that?
You kind of sound like that clip that I saw of Ninja being like, "That's why I don't stay in the room with a woman on my own ever."
It's not that. It's just I don't. I generally, even though I'm a content creator, I don't spend much time consuming content. Like the closest I get is watching streams of like fighting game content, which is not necessarily me following a content creator. It's me following a type of content on YouTube.
I'm a lot more like, I follow specific channels and stuff, like watch a lot of like Kind of Funny Games and Giant Bomb and stuff like that. Like I follow them as like actual content creators and a fan rather than you who tend to just follow topics.
Yes.
But yes, like it's one of those of, it would be nice to have some people on at some point. You just gotta like play those cards close to the chest sometimes, just because.
Do you know who I'd like to have on as a guest? Have you seen the depths of Wikipedia? It's a fantastic social media presence, and they do a podcast as well, where they just track down the most bullshit random Wikipedia articles.
Carl, I thought that we were like, in our own niche in the wiki podcast genre.
Well, I think technically Wiki Weekends is older than their idea.
Oh yeah,
we're all right though.
Okay, because that's the thing. When I searched, just did a Google search when we were turning Wiki Weekends into its own channel, I did a minor amount of like 3 minutes of research of just wiki podcast, and it came up with like, I think it was like one other wiki based podcast that was like more than I've got one listener kind of thing.
Yep.
And I was like, oh okay, we are in a pretty like niche position, even though we use the wiki format to talk about really popular subjects. The fact that we're basing it around the fact that it's wiki entries, like, brings us quite like a niche little zone in itself.
We do have a niche, yes. Like, I also did research next. My old job was SEO work, search engine optimization. So, yeah.
Yes, for anyone new here, Karl and I are both here to bring you a wiki page for our choosing that we can hopefully have a fun discussion from. It's going well. My intros are going well. Apparently, I'm finding it hard to read. But then it is your job as listeners, Karl, to decide which wiki won each week, which you can officially vote for by joining our community Discord, the link to which you can find in the description below. Of course, you can just comment what your favourite wiki was out of the two and which one brought the better discussion, which is the point of the vote.
Yes, however, it's not which wiki is the subject you prefer, it's just which discussion was better. But or you could just do what some people tend to do: listen to the first 30 seconds and be like, "I hate this. Stop talking about Digimon. Never talk about Digimon again."
I'll tell you what, I'm not talking about Digimon again because those comments started getting a bit nasty.
It's like we got in our Discord. You can ask us questions and stuff. Someone asks like, "Oh, you ever thought about doing an episode on Ben 10?" It's like the Ben 10 fandom is really weird. I'd rather not interact with it.
I'm not writing it off. I might talk about Ben 10 at some point. But, like, man, I was a little bit fearful of putting Digimon there because, like, we don't think Digimon is perfect, and some Digimon fans get real upset about that.
Yeah.
I thought that, like, okay, well, you know, Karl takes the piss out of Digimon in the first couple of minutes, but after that, we kind of move on. You can hear
me smiling.
Yeah,
I'm being so sarcastic at the start of that video.
And then, like, man, there was a couple of comments we had to remove because there was some nasty shit. And a lot of people just straight up being like, I'm never watching your content ever again.
Yeah, how dare you talk shit about this series about digital monsters with guns for hands?
And it's like, fine then, I'm just not going to touch that topic again. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to poke the bear any further.
They are the same people who would be in the Discord asking us, why don't you talk about Digimon? I really like it. It's like, because we might not just give it lavish, uncritical praise like you want us to.
Mm-hmm. But guess what? We might not always like the things you like, and then not forcing us, but asking us to like talk about those topics, and then getting angry for giving our actual opinion. It's like,
yeah, it reminds me of a few years ago. I was asked of like, how did you and Lucas meet? And I said we met at university, and the person got mad of like, is that all the story is? It's like, well, there's not much to the story. We met at university. It's like, well, I thought there'd be a better story than that. It's like, I'm really sorry there's not a story of how me and Lucas met. And they got mad that I didn't have a better story for how we met.
It's like, we literally both went to a society for gaming, which was basically, hey, do you want to meet friends that are also into gaming? And that's how we became friends, is because we actively went to a group where it was like, here's other people that enjoy the same thing as you.
And that's all there is to the story. It's the internet does it a lot of like, because the internet really feeds into people's expectation of a narrative. That there has to be one, a narrative, and two, that narrative has to have a satisfying conclusion. And sometimes stories in real life don't have endings.
Yeah.
And when they do have endings,
don't have satisfying beginnings either.
No.
And like,
because sometimes real life is just, you know, random events.
That is one thing I would say to anybody that at least goes to like university that runs similarly to the ones that we had over, like, we met in Sheffield Hallam, and like, I don't know if every uni's like this, even in the UK, but if your university has got a bunch of like different societies, my recommendation is to go join some to meet people, because like, all of the people I still speak to from that time at university are basically people I met then and through those means. And like, I literally moved to a city where I knew, like, I think maybe like one or two other people that were also moving to uni there. But I basically moved to a new city that I'd never been to before and didn't think I knew anyone there.
Yeah.
And that was like a great way for me to go meet people with, you know, as I say, similar hobbies and interests.
Yeah, as I said, it was literally that. We both turned up to the same event at the same time, like, hey, let's be friends. Well, there was legit a person who was mad that the story didn't have a more. It's like, what, is that it? There must be more to that story. Like, well, there is, but it's like personal stuff because, you know, that's how friendships form. And they were mad that I wouldn't like there must be more to it. It's like we met it. What more do you want me to say?
Ultimately,
like, you saved my life from a ninja.
I did. Carl just doesn't want to admit it, but like, yeah, we met playing presumably either like I can't remember the specific game because guess what? I met a lot of people and don't specifically remember how we met because at the time it wasn't something of importance. It was just you were another person in that group. And yeah, we probably like played a game of Marvel vs. Capcom or Smash Bros. Against each other and went, hey, that seems like a relatively nice guy. Cool, let's talk to them.
It's the significance of the event would not become relevant or evident until much later, at which point you'd forgotten what the event was. But
exactly.
Continue with the intro, Luke. I apologise for taking you slightly off course there.
Well, Carl, can you guess which wiki won last week? Because
remind everyone of what the wikis were.
It was the Deadpool and Wolverine podcast special, of course.
People like Deadpool more than they like Wolverine, I feel. Deadpool's more internet, you know. He enjoys more internet notoriety. So I'm going to say Deadpool.
Well, Carl, you know how we framed it as kind of like a Deadpool versus Wolverine podcast? But the actual movie is Deadpool and Wolverine.
And Wolverine, yes.
And it is a collaborative sense of like love and care between the characters. We both won this week, Carl.
Oh, so it got exactly an equal amount of votes.
It did, yeah.
So we both lost.
No, because that's the glass half empty way of looking at it. We both won, Carl.
It's like, do you ever see the script spelling bee? Happens every year. And spelling is one of those things where there's only so good you can be at spelling. At a certain point, you just know how to spell every word. And every year, like it gets to the point where like more and more people just are so good, they decide that all of these kids are joint first place. And they just split the first place medal. But you'll have like Fox News and stuff calling them fucking losers. They're like, oh, they're giving them participation medals. Like, no, they are all equally as good as each other. The best person in the world, they are all equally as good as each other. It'd be like if you went to the Olympics and the 100 meters, if all 8 people finished 10 seconds flat.
It's one of those things of ultimately, if they're all that good at spelling, we start to run out of words.
Yeah. After a certain point, it becomes clear that the only way we're going to be able to separate them is because one of them's going to get tired. And that's not really testing their ability to spell, that's testing their ability to stand up and answer questions.
Endurance, right? Which is not the test. It's not the competition.
And people get really mad about it, like, oh, they're all fucking losers because they're all got... No, they're obviously equally as good.
And then
the Olympics on now, right? The Olympics one year, where it's like first and second place got joints. They cut the medal in half, right? One got half a gold medal and half a silver medal each.
Yeah, because it was is this like the one where it's like the long jumper, I think it was, or something, and they were like, oh hey, so you both tied for first, but that means neither of you win. Like, how do you want to do this? Because like, do you want to do a tiebreaker? They were like, no, we both won.
Yeah, we both have first place. We're both equally as good.
Yeah.
Just like our wikis, equally as good.
They were, yeah. And I think that might be the first time we've tied, which if it is a really like nice time to have tied because it was like...
I feel there may have been a tie in the past and we made that same joke.
There may have been.
Story.
But yeah, just like the idea of like the Deadpool and Wolverine, like the movie's about both of them equally. Like ultimately it's told through the narrative perspective of Deadpool, but it's meant to be about both of their stories.
It is indeed, yes. So yes, joint winners.
And we have another weekly gimmick, which is Pet of the Week. And of course,
I want to look at what's the pet of this week. That's a good one.
Yeah, anyone who's been watching the live podcast so far has been able to see the Pet of the Week already on screen, which is Mouse. And obviously
that's a good name for a cat as well, right?
Yeah,
I love when they give
cat
cats like silly names.
So Mouse is a lovely cat you can see on screen, anyone watching the video version, and submitted to us by a Whiskey TK. There's no fun fact or story or anything about Mouse. They just won, and they just wanted us to admire in the cuteness of the cat.
Is that like that might be the Whiskey we've worked with in the past as well?
I was wondering that, yeah.
I'll have to double check with them. I'll shoot her a message like, hey, have you joined our Discord? I think I'm working with them on something later in the year. They're hosting like a 24-hour game stream, but it's in like October, so there's no announcement yet. Like, hey, do you want to play like Metal Gear Rising Revengeance on stream? I'm like, yeah.
Like, do you really have to ask?
Do you want to play like your favorite game for charity? I'm like, yeah. So I'll have to message them like, hey, was that you? You got Pet of the Week, congrats.
Yeah, that was something that just like arose in my head. I was typing the name out. I was like, I think that might be the people we've collabed with before, but
that rings a bell, yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, if you want to submit your pet for Pet of the Week, you've just got to be a patron and join our Discord. And anyone, by the way, who does have a problem with that, like Red Hot in chat, like just spoke to me the other day on stream and just said like, hey, I am, but I haven't got the role. If that does happen, send one of us a message. We can just verify your Patreon and like get that problem solved immediately. It's not hard for us to change roles manually and stuff. We just would like to hope that the bot just does it automatically, but technology.
Like generally, me and you have like essentially opposite sleep schedules. So one of us is always about. We're like a dead zone. Like I think between like 5 in the morning and 7 when I wake. That's when you go to bed and I wake up. That's like the dead zone. So that's when you can post your spiciest memes. But otherwise, me and Luke are always around.
Don't tell them when the moderators are asleep, Karl.
Luke, we've got to sleep at some time, mate.
We've got to, but as you say, we just like accidentally keep that like sleep schedule just
basically have
overlapping. Yeah. Oh no! Again, as Karl says, like 1 a.m. for me is like not really a problem.
It's like 3 p.m. for me.
It's like I'm just like, yeah, sure, I'll be up for hours. It's cool. I go to bed like 3 to 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I generally sleep for about 4 hours.
So I tried to go to bed earlier, but you know, it's hard, especially when I've got like. I'd say that in a really depressing way. Of like, I've got no reason to wake up. It's like I just don't have like a job where I need to wake up.
Job. Fuck you.
No, but I don't have a job where I need to wake up at like 8 o'clock in the morning the next day.
Yeah, and then for me, it's just I wake up really, really early every morning because I hate myself.
I'm just a bit more of a night owl, and you're just a bit more of a
I don't
day
sleep.
person.
I go to sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning. I wake up at 7. It doesn't matter. I try sleep mask. I try weight of blankets. I'll wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning every time.
But Karl, speaking of Patreon, we do have our polls up for the August topics that people can vote for.
Yes, I'm excited for mine.
Karl has decided to discuss a game show. Anyone like who wants to pick out of Karl's game shows that he wants to talk about, it was Ninja Warrior, Takeshi's Castle, Total Wipeout, and The Chase, I believe.
Yeah. I hope it's Takeshi's Castle or Ninja Warrior. I want to talk about Ninja Warrior.
I don't.
Ninja Warrior is so good.
Let the people vote.
Oh, but Ninja Warrior is so good. But either way, yes, that's what I picked.
But yeah, you can vote on that if you're at the $5 tier on our Patreon, and you can also vote on mine, which is a poll where I have to do a little bit of homework as well, because I'm going to be talking about another classic film. I was about to say another because spoilers for like this weekend's video probably. I've already talked about The Terminator and rewatched that movie, but I figured I get a lot of criticism because Karl brings up a lot of these classic movies, and I've never watched any of the classic movies.
The thing is, though, now people know why I've watched so many movies. It's like people in chat like, you sleep for 4 hours or at naps. Yes. Why just think I'm always watching TV and I've watched so many movies? I've got nothing else to do. The thing is, I remember one time I went to sleep at like 9 o'clock, thinking I'm going to get a good night's sleep. I woke up at 1 in the morning. I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to go watch Rocky 1, 2, and 3 in a row till 9 when I can start work.
Well, speaking of Rocky is one of the films that I said that I may watch and then talk about. The others being Alien, Predator, and Rambo. So both of those polls are up over on our Patreon, and again, links are just in the description of wherever you're watching or listening to this. And then, yeah, if anyone is watching us live, just make sure that you give us a little like to try and help other people find the show while it's live. Any super chats made during the show will, of course, be like read out and discussed by both, either Karl or me. We won't both read it out, but we will say all of the super chats before the end of the podcast. And then, yeah, just if you're watching on YouTube later, give us a good old like and subscribe. And if you listen on podcast services, then just give us a review and a believe. They're rolling out comments on Spotify now as well. Yeah. So go ahead and comment there, and we'll see what happens with all that.
Yeah, and then just throw your phone out the window.
You can find Karl and I.
For that? There's like
what?
There's a French term for when you'll be sat there and you'll just think, I should just throw my phone off the edge of this bridge.
Not defenestration.
No, like just Joe, that when you just have a feeling like when you're in a car.
When you
just
got like
suddenly
that, like
the overwhelming urge to
impulse.
do something stupid.
Mhm.
Like when you're in a car and it's like, I should open the door. There's a term for it.
Intrusive thoughts, is it?
Yeah, but there's actually like a term to describe that exact feeling, and it's call of the void. And there's like a French term for it that sounds way more fancy. But it's like, Joe, when you just have one of those moments where you think to yourself, oh, what would happen if I like open this car door while I was in motion? Or when you see like the emergency stop button on a train, and you think to yourself, what would happen if I pressed it, and then you don't.
I have that a lot when preparing food. Is like, what if I just cut my hand?
Yeah.
Like, what if I just chopped a finger off right now?
And you
And
just
like,
think to yourself, there's a term for that. I'm gonna look it up.
But yeah, while Carl looks that up, you can, of course, find us in other places on the interwebs. We'll talk more about that later. And Carl, after you have found that little
it's just call of the void, and it is a symptom of intrusive thoughts, and it can be a sign of ADHD. Depending on how like intrusive that thought is. For most people, it's just like you'll sit there and like, oh, what would happen? Like, wouldn't it be crazy if I just open the car door right now? But for some people, the urge becomes overwhelming. They have to do it. It's just, I can't say it in French, but it's like just l'appel du vide.
French. I love like when you're. Did you learn French at school?
No, I learned Spanish.
Yeah, cause I was gonna say like you tend to like get halfway through saying French words and just go. Blah, blah,
yeah, blah. I learned Spanish. So uno dos tres cuatro cinco seis.
And yeah, Carl, now that you've looked that up, what have you brought for us this week as your wiki topic?
Well, I brought something. Well, it's inspired by a little bit of news. And that news is that Mortal Kombat 1 had a big update, and there's going to be a big story expansion, which is going to add new characters. And in keeping with the trend of like more modern Mortal Kombat games, there's some guest characters. So the guest characters Mortal Kombat has had so far is Mortal Kombat 9. They had Freddy Krueger, was randomly a character in Mortal Kombat 9. In Mortal Kombat 10, they had Leatherface, Jason Voorhees, the Alien, the Predator.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Mortal Kombat 11, they had Rambo, RoboCop, and there's another character I'm forgetting, but they're a bunch of guest characters. And then in Mortal Kombat 1, the guest characters I have so far, Omni-Man, Peacekeeper, Homelander, and then in the next season it's going to be Ghostface, the T-1000, and Conan the Barbarian.
It's like, it's wild to me that they obviously MK9 the DLC was a bit more all over the shop.
It's more the fact that just randomly Freddy Krueger's in there. It makes no sense,
right?
And a common criticism is it feels like if you could like mix and match these guest characters, you'd have the basis of a really cohesive theme.
Mm-hmm.
Like MK10 almost had all the horror villains in there.
But Freddy Krueger was stuck in MK9.
Yeah, because and then you couldn't do, because you could do the Alien versus the Predator, but you couldn't do Freddy versus Jason. Mm-hmm. But you could do Jason versus Leatherface.
Yes, yeah.
And now Ghostface, another iconic like slasher villain, is locked to Mortal Kombat 1, where he's going to fight the T-1000. Similarly, the T-1000 can't fight the Terminator, who's in Mortal Kombat 11.
Yeah, because it was like they seemingly had themes going on of like MK10 was mostly the horror guest characters, MK11 was mostly like classic action movies.
But then Conan the Barbarian is locked to MK1.
Well, yeah, it's just MK1 seemingly the superhero and anti-superhero stuff was like the theme of season 1, and then with season 2 it's like, look at all these guest characters that would make more sense in MK10 and 11.
Oh yeah, and in Mortal Kombat 11 you had Spawn, which would have suited the superhero anti-hero vibe of number 1. Which and now it's established that they don't give a fuck. I kind of like how incongruent the characters are. Like, because at first I was like in agreement that it makes more sense if you could have like all the slasher villains in the same game.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of appreciate that at some point I'm going to see a thumbnail on YouTube of Ghostface combos on Homelander. That's so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that. So today's topic is Ghostface.
Which
characters we've talked about to the T-1000, and Conan is a series I'm not too familiar with.
I'd already made the thumbnail for this podcast, right? Just to peel the curtain back a little bit. And I was like, oh, well, Carl messaged me after I'd already set up the stream that like, oh yeah, I'm going to talk about Ghostface. I was like, okay, cool. So I'll make like, because the doing like the A/B thumbnail testing, I'll make the Ghostface thumbnail as well, and then I can add that in as like an alternate one. And then it turns out that you can't do that for like live streams and previous live streams. You can only do it for like
YouTube
videos, not live streamed videos. And I'm like, what's the fucking difference? Both of them have got thumbnails. Like, why did I spend time making this extra thumbnail that now I've got to like? Either way, I've got to remove one or the other. I can't do the A/B testing thing.
What a shame, eh?
What a fucking pain in the arse, YouTube. Come on, get your shit together.
How do you feel about that though? Because like, are you in the same, or would you prefer if there was like more cohesion between the guest characters? Like, would you prefer to have all the horror icons in the same game?
I would prefer the cohesion.
You just like how stupid it is?
No, I would prefer the cohesion because like I love the kind of Smash Bros element of, well, who would win in a fight? Like, Mario, Sonic.
Yeah.
And then like obviously later down the line it became even wilder of like who would win in a fight of like Mario, Sonic, Mega Man, Pac-Man, Sephiroth, fucking I don't know, Castlevania guy, whatever his name is. Simon Belmont, that's the one.
I get it, but that's the thing though. And now they've established this, I kind of wish they were even stupider. I kind of wish they didn't have any cohesion between any of the guests, because the fact you've got like Homelander, Omni-Man, and Peacekeeper, they kind of match up together, but the next three don't. And it's like,
I think that's what's frustrating and why I would like to be cohesion, because they've established a level of cohesion, but not
enough.
Managed to commit them to all the correct games.
And then you have the thing of like, oh, so when they put in, for example, in Mortal Kombat 11, they put the Terminator in, and they got the likeness rights to Arnold Schwarzenegger,
but not
they didn't get him to voice the character.
They had RoboCop as well, yeah.
Yeah, but then they got RoboCop, and they got Peter Weller's likeness rights, and he voiced the character. Same for Sylvester Stallone with Rambo. I hate that bit.
Yeah.
And then we have, like, in Mortal Kombat 1, Homelander is Anthony Starr's likeness, but not his voice. But for Omni-Man, they didn't get the likeness, obviously, but they did get the voice of J.K. Simmons. And then for Peacekeeper, they got John Cena's likeness and his voice.
Right.
And it annoys me that just some of the actors seemingly don't want to be in the project.
It would be very funny if for Omni-Man they also got the likeness, and it was just J.K. Simmons in the Omni-Man outfit.
It makes like Omni-Man's appearance in the show is loosely. They slightly changed it from the comics to look sort of more like J.K. Simmons.
But it doesn't look like him, right?
No. But that's what annoys me more than anything else. It's like, if you're going to put, and you're going to hinge it on the nostalgia factor, you've got to put the fucking, and you're going to get the actor's likeness, and you're going to painstakingly recreate them. Get the voice as well. So I know it would be a pain in the ass to convince Arnold Schwarzenegger to step into the recording booth.
Of course,
Just tell him Sylvester Stallone did it.
But
you think that'd be enough, right? You think as soon as you got an actor as big as Stallone in, you no other actor.
Well, that's usually how they got people for the Expendables, right? Of just, well, this guy's doing it.
Like, Stallone wants you to be in the movie. It's like, what's fucking Sylvester Stallone? Like, again, Jean-Claude Van Damme's a random skin in
for Johnny Cage.
Yeah, and he did all his voice lines.
But
that's the bit that annoys me. It's not the cohesion; it's the fact that the characters. If you're gonna hinge it on nostalgia, you've got to commit.
Yeah, and like, Grown in chat just pulls out like Yoda versus Ezio from Soul Calibur, and I'm like, what? The one that really gets me is when it's like, speaking of Mortal Kombat, Tekken had like Noctis and Negan, and I'm like, Noctis should be in Soul Calibur, and Negan should be in Mortal Kombat. Why are they in Tekken?
It makes no sense. But again, I kind of like when you just go in and it's like, okay, it's Nina Williams fighting Negan. the stupid, like, I think I want it to be more. I want it to be even more wild than it is. I'd have preferred if, like, and if you're gonna put a character from The Boys in, don't put Homelander in. Put a character who's like doesn't control the same. But either way, yeah. So back to Ghostface. So Ghostface is the identity adopted by the main antagonist of the Scream franchise. It is a fictional persona and in-universe Halloween costume used as a disguise by the antagonist of the franchise to conceal their identity. Over the course of the franchise, at least 14 people have used the Ghostface identity. 19 if you could count the TV series as canon.
And then that's across what, like, okay, the TV series being canon, but there's like 6 movies, I think.
Yeah, there's also the Stab films, and it's 21 if you also consider the video game.
Stab film?
I don't know what that is, but it's associated with the franchise and it involves Ghostface. So there's upwards or up to 21 different people who've donned the Ghostface costume, and that's one of the theories about how the ghost people when Ghostface got announced, like, well, it's just a guy with a knife. How interesting is that going to be? And there's a game called Terrordrome, which is a fan-made horror fighting game in which it has like Pinhead, it has Jason Voorhees, it has Leatherface, it also has Ghostface, and Ghostface's gimmick in the game is that they call in the second Ghostface.
I was about to say,
it's two characters in one.
Is it Noob Saibot style?
Yes.
Yeah.
They have two characters and they like can teleport because you think you've killed Ghostface and then another Ghostface runs in from off screen. If they commit to that gimmick, that could work.
As you were saying it, that thought popped in my head of like, do they kind of play like Noob Saibot? And it's like
multiple Ghostfaces.
That's so cool.
It is, yes. And that's the one where they have like Candyman in it, and he's like, his super is he just as the Captain Corridor, but he does it with bees. He's like, yeah, like Captain Commando, where he just does the big explosion that goes all the way to the top of the screen.
Oh, yes, yeah.
But he does that with bees.
Oh, I'm so fucking excited to eventually play. Like, it's probably not a day one purchase for me, but just the Capcom fighting collection of like getting to go and play those old Marvel vs. Capcom games with players like Captain fucking Commando.
Just the Captain Corridor, it's unstoppable. And he mentions here that in the movies and the third season, Ghostface is voiced by Roger L. Jackson, notable for also portraying and Lucas. I'm going to give you a clue. He's a voice actor, and he's in a popular Cartoon Network series that involves superheroes. Would you like me to narrow it down more?
Yeah, I can't think of superhero Cartoon Network shows.
The Powerpuff Girls.
Oh, is he Mojo Jojo?
He's Mojo Jojo.
Oh, yes.
How good is that?
Oh, that's excellent.
He's also Harkin in Mass Effect and the Green Goblin in and the Lizard in some Spider-Man media.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I
think he's been the voice for like years. Like, and basically they got rid of him for a little bit and then they brought him back in. So they always use a voice changer and it's always his voice. But there's been other people who've voiced the character, either the actor in the costume sometimes, but when they apply the voice changer, it's usually Roger L. Jackson.
I do find it very strange watching Scream, which I rewatched last year, which fucking holds the fuck up, by the way.
It's so good, right?
Yeah, that first Scream movie is genuinely great. And I was a bit weirded out by, like, people aren't aware. In the first Scream movie, there's not one killer, multiple people are. Is it two? It's two specifically, right?
The thing is, there's so many films, and there's always a twist, and that's one of the things that makes the Scream franchise so good. Is that it's a series that plays on established horror tropes. Then this, breaks them down, but then as the series went on, it itself became a trope. So it was not only playing on established tropes; it's playing on established tropes within the Scream franchise.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's meta upon meta.
And yeah, just like the fact that there's two Ghostfaces, but they both sound like the same when they're using the voice changer. It's like, that's not how voice changers work, though.
But you know what? You can hold on to it.
It's fine because it upholds that mystery of the reveal towards the end of the movie, right?
Yeah, and it mentions here that we have some biographical information about Ghostface here. So the full name can depend on what movie it is, obviously, but the aliases are Ghostface, Father Death, the Woodsboro Killer, the Ghost, Mr. Ghostface, the Ghostface, the Lakewood Slasher, the Killer, the Dipshit in the Mask, and Chromeface. And that's like a nickname adopted by fans.
I love the idea of like, oh well, we're reporting like a death on the news, and we have to give him his proper title of Mr. Ghostface.
Mr. Ghostface. Well, that's always the thing, and that's the other thing it plays on of like, stop giving him cool nicknames.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to inspire copycat killers, which, spoilers, half the Scream franchise is copycat killers.
The other half is just corny cocks.
Do you know, have you ever seen that amazing tweet of someone like, if you ever feel bad, just remember Courtney Cox's haircut in like Scream.
Oh.
And Courtney Cox herself was like rude. So have you seen how bad her haircut was?
I did watch it last year. I didn't know how bad it was. I just noted that it, like, everyone in that movie was obviously very 90s.
Let me just send you a picture, Luke, because I know you like
late
you have
90s.
To, like, Lucas, you're not ready for how fucking bad this haircut was.
Oh, hang on. I know that I go away when I
Got to jump
remove.
off camera, yeah. But Lucas, you need to see it.
Have you sent it?
Look, yes, look how bad that haircut is.
All that fringe, those bangs.
It looks like you did it with a knife and fork.
It
It's real
literally,
bad.
it looks like those videos of like, you know, teenagers on
Girls cutting their own
TikTok
bangs,
being
right?
like, "I'm gonna cut my own bangs," and then they cut them and go,
They make the
"Mom, I
mistake.
fucked up."
Here's a pro tip: if anyone wants to cut their own hair, like during the pandemic, like I saw all the same clips. I have long hair, and you'll see them. They'll pull down their fringe, and what they'll do is they'll pull it down and then look, not realizing that like normally you are like to do that you have to go. Normally, like, and then you see them cut it, and then they adopt their neutral facial expression.
But
And
you
you'll
also
the
see
go.
like, because hair has like some element of springiness depending on your hair type. Like, it also goes from like here when they're pulling it, like bounces back up and gets a bit of lift, and it's like,
Also, hair doesn't grow entirely in a straight line. That's why you have to get like it feathered and stuff like that. It's bad, poor Courtney Cox. But occupation of Ghostface, it varies depending on the wearer of the costume, but largely their occupation is listed as serial killer, and their powers and abilities are high. Obviously, these also vary depending on the person donning the costume, but they include and are not limited to high level of intelligence, master of manipulation, mastery of stealth, vast knowledge of horror movies and tropes, charisma, criminal intuition, combat prowess, intimidation, murder methodology, weapon proficiency, nicemanship, gunsmanship, enhanced stamina, agility, speed, evasion, and reflexes, tracking expertise, hacking expertise, sheer raw brute strength, honed durability, and of course, deception.
Yeah, because like, again, like talking about spoilers for Scream 1 here, it's been a long time. It's nearly as old as we are. Get over it.
It is.
It's like just the idea that both of them are part of the friend group that they are just annihilating and murdering.
Yep.
It's like,
and it takes a lot to be able to convince people that you're not a murderer.
Yeah, and one of them's the boyfriend of one of the females in the group. So like, literally, they joke about sleeping together and stuff. And
yeah, it's like, oh, it's the only way. If you're a virgin, you'll survive this horror movie. It's like that's not how it works. You also get that great joke, don't you? Of like one of the first jokes and one of the first bits of the entire film is, "Do you want to have a PG-13 relationship?" She just flashes him.
And just it's like the psychology and or lack the psychopathy involved in like being friends with this group of people and manipulating them all and making them think that you're friends with them, but then actually your plan between you two is to just murder them all.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of fucked up shit.
It is. And do you remember, or do you recall, Ghostface's catchphrases? There are two, and they're variations of the same thing. Would you happen to recall what the catchphrase of Ghostface is? It's the first thing they'll say when you answer the phone.
Yeah, I remembered it was part of the phone call, but I can't remember the phrasing specifically.
Do you like scary movies?
Oh yeah, because even one of them at one point is getting like quizzed on other horror films, right?
Yeah, it's like pop quiz. And
Yeah,
then the person that's arguing with them as Ghostface is in the background doing shit. And the film's really good at like creating that sense of paranoia, which is really impressive for a film that is trying to deconstruct the tropes. Because it's deconstructing tropes where you realistically know what's going to happen because you know what horror movies normally do. So it has to play on that expectation. That's what makes the film still hold up.
Yeah, there's that amazing bit when he gets to one of the houses and he's like, "Oh, like, are you about to run up the stairs like they do in the films? Because that's a bad idea." Like, just every single time that they're in like Ghostface mode, they are just openly mocking like the tropes of other horror films, and like, as you say, it just becomes like a super meta film almost immediately.
One of the things I like about Ghostface is that occasionally Ghostface just eats shit.
Yeah, I really
sometimes
like
because
that.
anyone can don the costume, they might not always be the most competent killer. Like sometimes you'll see the person in the Ghostface costume just fall over.
Yeah,
and that wouldn't normally happen in a horror movie. You wouldn't have the killer. You wouldn't have Jason Voorhees eat shit and trip over like a log. But Ghostface can do that, and as a result, they're way scarier because anything can happen.
Yeah, it is very convincing that it's just, well, I mean, you think at the time it's like just some guy, but it turns out it's just two guys fucking about and like sloppily killing people for the most part. But
and they use the fact there's two of them to like evoke those horror movie tropes, like Jason, where Jason can seemingly teleport, where you'll run away from Ghostface, and Ghostface suddenly appears behind you. It's like,
yeah,
wait, is Ghostface like supernatural? It's like, no, it's just a guy or two guys.
but they didn't realize it was two guys, so it's fucking terrifying because all of a sudden it looks like he's teleporting.
And that's what makes it interesting. It mentions here an overview of the Ghostface character. So in the Scream universe, the costume for Ghostface is not unique and is easily obtainable. And that's another thing. You have like people wearing the costume, and then kind of like that's kind of fucked up. That dude killed a bunch of people,
and that was like the like I don't know. At least where I grew up, it was the
it was a very popular
12
costume.
to 14-year-old man, oh like male, who is just using the excuse of wearing that mask to be a complete asshole.
Yeah.
And like
it was
run around
to wear a Deadpool costume.
Yeah, like run around during Halloween time, like just throwing eggs at houses and shit like that to just like get away with it. And I always remember like the evolution of the Ghostface masks over those early years of like one year it was like, this really horrible rubber that you can't breathe through. The next year it was like more plasticky. Then the next year it had like the one where you could push the button and the blood bleeds through. And it's like, yeah.
So it's a very iconic costume.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, but people did use it to be an asshole. Like it was like the precursor to Deadpool. And do you see that like 10 on 10 S tier tweet from like Jenny Nicholson where it's like, oh, Disney is going to allow, or they're going to like introduce a Deadpool to walk around Disneyland. And she just retweeted it and like, oh wow, it's going to be the first Deadpool cosplayer who won't sexually harass you. So it mentions here in Scream 3, it mentions here Ghostface often calls its targets to taunt or threaten them while using a voice changer that hides their true identity. In Scream 3, this is taken one step further by Roman Bridger, who used a device that enables him to sound like other characters in the film to manipulate targets. The Ghostface persona remains the same throughout the Scream series, featuring a black hood, a cloak with a jagged base, and a white vinyl mask with a black shroud sewn onto the back, resembling a ghost with a screaming expression. Though each iteration of Ghostface is human, they often, paradoxically, exhibit extreme durability against physical harm, high levels of physical strength, and an almost supernatural ability for stealth. This is often characterized by the ability to appear and disappear in seemingly impossible situations, which is one of the things they play. Is like, wait, is Ghostface superhuman in this one? It's like I think there's one where like they shoot Ghostface and he gets back up. It's like, wait, is Ghostface bulletproof? Nah, bulletproof vest.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
There's also that like fucking amazing moment in like not the latest one, I think it's the second latest one, where just randomly like Ghostface just pulls out a shotgun. It's like, oh god, no! Just you think, oh, he's just got a knife. He's got to catch me, and he pulls out a shotgun. It's like, oh no!
Fucking 5 cream over here. I love that. Like, I love that they keep doing the whole like putting the numbers into the thing, and it's just like. It's not Scream 5, it is just 5 cream, and that's how I always know it.
40, right? But it gets away with it because it's being meta.
Yeah. And, like, I do think it's very funny, because I've not watched the later Scream movies. I've only seen Scream 1 and 2.
You don't need to, because it was going to be a franchise, and then it's like Melissa Barrio, I think, was like, hey, maybe you should stop genociding Palestinians, and the company's like, well, get rid of her.
Yeah.
And then half the cast just walked.
Yeah. And, it's very funny watching interviews from, I think it was like Scream 6, where they were like, oh, what's exciting about this movie? And it said all that it needed to, of just like, every single answer was an actual trope that the earlier movies used to make fun of.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, oh, like the Ghostface killer could like turn up anywhere and all this jazz, and like, who knows what powers they've got and all this. And it's like, every single time I watch that interview, like, because it was like a promoted ad or something, during the time it released, and like I just see every single answer be like, "This is the shit the early movies was making fun of."
It's the exact stuff they were making fun of. Yeah, the fact that movie franchises go on way too long and get ridiculous and convoluted. Well, because Scream's meta, it sort of gets away with it.
But is it meta anymore? Because it didn't feel like that was being meta at all. Like
they can write it off as being meta, but the real answer is the studio wants to make money off an established franchise. But they can claim it's meta, so they can like dissuade and like just shield themselves from criticism, however valid.
Because it was the exact stuff that 1 and 2 were making fun of. that like they were actually marketing the movie with as like a selling point now, and I was like, oh dear, the institutification of everything.
Yep. And we have here abilities and attributes of Ghostface. Unlike supernatural killers like Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, or Freddy Krueger, Ghostface is entirely human but has several skills of a deadly killer. Ghostface is skilled in spying and stealth, allowing him or her to hide in unexpected places. Also, you can just take the costume off.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? You can just take the costume off and then no one knows your Ghostface anymore. That's one of the things of like that they take advantage of in the films, isn't it? Of like you'll have multiple moments in the franchise where someone's being chased by Ghostface and then their boyfriend, who they called on the phone, turns up. Yeah. And it's like, I got here just in time. Where's the killer? And it's like, no, wait, you're the killer. You could have taken off the mask. And sometimes it is, sometimes it's not.
And
it
like
lends that sense of paranoia.
Throughout the first movie, they constantly are like suspecting different characters of being the Ghostface killer, and can you trust your boyfriend or not? Is he gonna murder you? And the answer is like, yeah, he's gonna try and fucking murder you.
Most likely, yes.
And then just like, I think it's just before they reveal the two of them are Ghostface, like they literally take off the outfits and pretend to fit in again after they've just murdered people at the house.
Yep.
And then I find it very funny though at the end of that movie where like then they get pissy with each other.
Yeah.
But like the other person was doing a shit job, and it's like, yeah, that would probably be what happens, right?
Like we see the later ones with like Jack Quaid. Like spoilers for like a movie that came out 2 years ago. Like Jack Quaid is one of the killers, and to get into the mindset of someone who's like just an arsehole obsessed, because I think Jack Quaid's character in that movie is like obsessed with the law, the established law of Ghostface, and is annoyed that it's being changed. And to get into character, he just went on Reddit and cosplayed as someone who doesn't like Star Wars. He said, I just went to Reddit, and the thing he said is, no matter how extreme I made my opinion or criticism, or how unwarranted it was, or how pointless the thing I was complaining about on Reddit was, it'd always get upvotes to someone agreeing with me. There's no, he said, there's no limit to how extreme you can be, or how hyperbolic or how vitriolic you can be in your criticism of this franchise without someone agreeing with you. And that's the mind space he got into to play a serial killer.
Yeah. Especially when it's like specifically like the subreddit for that discussion talk. It's not like, just blasting out your opinion on social media to everyone.
He also went on Twitter, I believe, but he said, yeah, Reddit was just like, that's how it was the mindset of just like a fan who's an asshole.
Well, if he went onto Twitter, he might have been able to find like a pussy in bio. You never know.
My ghost in bio. While in costume, Ghostface often exhibits tremendous durability against physical harm and has high levels of physical strength, the both of which have limits that do exist within their human attributes, but seemingly, appear superhuman. But a lot of that can be chalked up to just sheer adrenaline and the fact that the person they're fighting is panicking.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I think again it is Scream 1 where someone gets shot and kind of just like, kind of powers through. You think that they've been killed, but they just get back up and no, I think they just get back up and they're like injured, but they keep trying to kill Courtney Cox because there's just adrenaline pumping through you at that point.
I do like as well. I think it's in one of the later Scream movies where Courtney Cox comes back and like Ghostface is on the floor. It's really funny because it's one of those things where it's actually kind of meta, because remember in the old Ghostface movies or Scream movies where you'd get called by like Ghostface, and Ghostface is like, aha, I am like hiding outside watching you right now. Courtney Cox gets the phone call and it's like, would you like to watch your favorite scary movie? She doesn't even hear the end of a sentence. She hangs up and just calls back, and the phone call goes off in a cupboard and she just opens fire on the closet. Because like the guy, as well, Ghostface is, I think, is like, I'm going to be so sneaky. It's like, oh, I'm going to get Courtney Cox. And she's just so done, and she's so aware of the trope. She immediately hangs up, calls the number back, hears it going off in a closet, and just opens fire on it with a pistol.
See, that's the kind of meta joke that, like, Scream should be making, right? Yeah. That's excellent. I'm just like, fuck you. I'm not playing your game, you're playing mine.
I just remember howling with laughter when that happened, because it's so unexpected just how quickly she just goes, boop, boop, doodle-it, boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, I think there was a clip that I saw as well, and it was like one of the characters gets a phone call, and immediately they've got like smart locks, and they just turn the smart lock on the house to like everything of just like, fuck you, house is locked.
Done, boop.
He's like, admittedly, Ghostface was probably already in the house, but I did find that funny of like, yeah, what's the modern equivalent of getting that phone call? Is it immediately lock every door with a small lock? But yeah.
And then you get like one of the funniest jokes in Scary Movies when like they're standing for Sydney gets that phone call and they just go on to email the police, white woman in distress, and the police car turns up 1 second later. Oh, we'll continue on with Ghostface's powers and abilities. Ghostface seems to display a heightened sense of awareness. He or she is often able to know where his victims are located before physical attack, where they are hiding, or where they will attempt to escape. As seen in Scream 2, Ghostface was able to tell if, when, and where their victims would place their head against a bathroom stall, enabling Ghostface to stab the target in the head from the next stall over.
And again, that's kind of playing on that trope, isn't it? Of like, somehow, like, Jason always fucking knows where you are, even though he's walking at a mile an hour and chasing you. He just finds you anyway.
Do you know what my favourite bits as well is? What is it now? There is a Halloween film where you can see Michael Myers driving a car. One of the things is he's in the background. He's in the background of a shot. You're not supposed to pay attention to the fact Michael Myers is there. But you see that because the stunt actor had to like check the turn signals because he was like on a real street. It looks like Michael Myers, the serial killer, just adheres to traffic laws. So you see him like just check his left, his right, and pull out and signal. He's like, why does Michael Myers signal?
Michael Myers will go on a mass murder killing spree, but he does obey by the rest of the laws.
He's not gonna fuck with traffic laws.
No.
Ghostface is strong enough to lift up a person and stun his victims with simple punches. He can endure several damages, like having a beer bottle thrown at his face or surviving stab or bullet wounds, but only to an extent. Ghostface is very skillful in wielding their knife and has enough strength to puncture through doors. With it, Ghostface kills their victims by stabbing them in vital points or slitting their throats. They're also fast enough to catch most of their victims. But here's the fun thing, and this is the thing I think differentiates Ghostface from other slasher villains. Ghostface is a little bit of a klutz. On multiple occasions, Ghostface has been hit by doors and other objects like a refrigerator while fighting, and sometimes they fall down on the floor while chasing their victim. That's just one of the things that makes Ghostface... It makes you realise that Ghostface is human, but that makes it kind of scary in the sense of like, oh, it's like, Joe, like there can be no despair without hope. The fact that Ghostface will sometimes fall over gives the victim the false belief they might get away.
Yeah, right.
Like the fact that like, with Jason Voorhees, you throw a fucking brick at him and he doesn't move. He doesn't flinch. Well, you're fucked, right? Whereas Ghostface, you can like hit Ghostface and you'll see they get injured a little bit, which makes you think you might escape.
Well, I think that happens at the beginning of Scream, is that before they end up capturing the first victim, and like, you know, they like kill her next to a tree or whatever. Ghostface, like, I think trips on the robe and falls over, and she thinks she's gonna get safely into the house, and then they catch her just at like the porch.
The very, very last second, yeah. But I just like that though. Just like sometimes Ghostface randomly eats shit.
But you would, right, in the outfit, is that robe is literally like as long as they'll, you know, it goes all the way down to the feet. And you would occasionally just trip up on shit like that. It's like, you know, why when people are wearing a dress, like they lift up the dress to go upstairs and shit. Because like a lot of the time you'll just eat shit if you try and just sprint up the stairs in like a dress or a robe.
It calls attention to, right? Like the outfit is unwieldy and it does have its limitations and it does have things that make you not as effective a serial killer as you might want to be, which it also mentions here. That as a scary movie fanatic, you know, that's what they base all their kills and fighting prowess on, but this does, in some cases, limit their ability to do harm or attack an opponent who is keenly aware of these same tropes.
And when you say scary movie, it's like horror slasher movies, not
scary movie,
scary movie franchise.
I think with Courtney Cox, of like, she's aware of that trope, so she immediately pulls the gun out, right? It does mention, you know, the shroud and the mask do limit Ghostface's vision and can serve as a disadvantage, enabling the possibility of it getting caught in nearby objects, which again happens like sometimes the costume gets caught on stuff, which is really funny.
And sometimes like the massive sleeves like get in the way of their slash attacks and stuff, yeah.
Or like sometimes like, you know, he'll miss a stab. Because a lot of the times it's like the costume, it's a person wearing a costume, they're not used to wearing that costume and they'll miss the stab, which just makes the threat all that much more scary because it gives you, oh, they missed. Oh, I might survive, but they're not going to stop.
They do actually do a very good job of giving nearly every person that dies a chance.
There's
getting
always
out.
tension, yeah.
Apart from the like, is it like the quarterback guy where she's like, my boyfriend will beat you up, and he's already like strapped to a chair and just gets disemboweled. It's like, holy shit, that's rough. That guy did not have a chance.
Yep.
Oh
It's
man.
just, Ghostface. And then there's a bunch more stuff here like behind the mask, and it's a lot of fucking people.
Well,
it goes on for a very, very long time. One of them is Matthew Lillard. So
Matthew Lillard was excellent in Scream, yeah, and just like, I don't want to say necessarily underrated, but like, it's like, you know, the equivalent of like a cult movie of like not an actor that's necessarily massive in Hollywood, but just is in a lot of like, you know, medium to smaller movies and absolutely just nails performances every time.
Is like they're so good in those bit parts, right? And then there's like just the transcripts of all the phone calls that they make, but it mostly starts with, "Do you like scary movies?"
And I just want to, you know, mention for a second, you brought up the fact, like, we're talking about Ghostface right now because they're in Mortal Kombat 1.
Yep.
And there was a lot of pushback of people being like, why the fuck is like the T-1000 and Ghostface like the picks for this when it's like they're just like 90s slash, I guess Scream might have been like 2000.
It's genius, yes, because Mortal Kombat, the game, came out in 1992, which means if you're a fan of Mortal Kombat from the very earliest days, you probably watched the T-1000 in its movie, which came out in 1991. However, if you were slightly older, you'd have watched Conan the Barbarian. But if you were slightly younger and you played like Mortal Kombat Armageddon, you'd have been growing up in the 2000s, you'll be familiar with Ghostface. However, if you're even younger than that, you're more likely familiar with Invincible and Peacekeeper. It's actually, when you think about it in that sense, it's actually genius that all their guest characters cover this wide range of dates.
Yeah, so, just what, 6 guest characters, and you're talking like a few current characters, and one from like, I'd say 80s, 90s, noughties.
Yep.
I think Scream was like either 99 or 2000, right? So it is that kind of.
It's a 2000 line.
Yeah.
That's what makes it really funny. Of like, I saw separately people being like, well, why is the T-1000 in it? That's lame. Oh my god, Ghostface, that's so cool. But then on the same hand, people are like, Ghostface is so lame, but oh my god, the T-1000. And other people are like, why the fuck is Conan in it? It's like, oh my god, Conan, one of like the original pulp heroes. Fuck yeah, Conan.
Yeah, because that's the thing. To me, I was like, Conan, whatever.
But you were hyped for the T-1000.
Well, I was hyped for T-1000 and Ghostface because I watched those movies when I was definitely of an appropriate age.
Yep. Isn't that a great? What's really funny is the people complaining. It's like, oh, I only like one of these characters. But the idea is, enough people out there will like one of those characters. They've cast a wide net. They're going to catch a lot of fish.
Well, leading into something that I'm going to talk about for the second half, it's something that is like often brought up about what Xbox say with like gaming showcases and stuff. And we know that not every game is for every person. But what we want when we have a showcase is that every single person is going to have a couple of games that they give a shit about.
Exactly. It's the people who's like, where's the Smash Bros. Reveal? It's like, if you only care about one game, it's difficult for you. But for most people, there's multiple things. People can care about multiple things at once. And there's just one bit of trivia here, which seems pretty obvious when you point it out. But it is one of those things where maybe you didn't realise. Ghostface's face is based on The Scream. The painting by Edvard Munch. So that's the classic, just the Home Alone. And you can tell it's warm party. Look at the finger marks just left on my face when I do that. But maybe people didn't put 2 and 2 together that the Scream franchise, the main villain, is based on The Scream by Edvard Munch.
Hence, it being called Scream. But yes, it's an iconic painting. An iconic look for a villain, even though it's so simple.
That's the beauty, right? It's like, if Ghostface wouldn't have looked cool, this franchise would have been dead on its ass. And there's like, history is replete with slasher villain knockoffs of Jason. And Jason himself is a knockoff of Michael Myers, who's just man with knife.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't get much more perfect than Michael Myers, who in the original script is just called The Shape.
Oh.
Michael, that's the name. It's like he's just.
He wasn't really a developed character in the first movie, right?
Yeah, and it's based on the idea. Joe, sometimes you'll see something in the corner of your eye. He's like, "What's that?"
Mm-hmm.
That's what Michael Myers is inspired by. It's like it's a mysterious shape.
That feeling when like you're alone in the home and like it feels as though there might be somebody there watching you or something.
There's somebody right watching you, yeah. Or sometimes you'll see him like doing a full 3-point turn in his car. But yeah, that's Ghostface. And Lucas, I feel like I need to take a break just to go splash a bit of water on my face.
Yeah, I need to make sure that I go refill my drink because staying hydrated right now while sweaty is very important.
Indeed it is, yes. So I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, same. So I'll just put us onto our break screen. Carl and I will just like disappear for a couple of minutes, mute up, but like
we will be back.
If anyone, joins new in chat and asks the question where the fuck is the podcast, just let them know we're taking a quick breaky break.
Yeah, that would be much appreciated, yes.
Oh, there we go, Carl. We are back.
We are indeed.
Means I can take my not break screen down because you left and I realized, oh, that was a file on my SSD that broke. So I just used the thumbnail that was unused. Of like, fuck it, that'll do.
It's good as well use the Xbox one to lead into my topic, and then I'm going to use my topic to lead into yours. But,
there we go.
Speaking of which, Lucas, is there anything you'd like to plug before we move on to your subject for this week?
There is indeed, because right now we are live streaming on July 31st, and tomorrow is August 1st. And what happens August 1st, Carl, is that I should hopefully have a code coming. It still hasn't arrived yet, but I've been assured that I will get a code for Thank Goodness You're Here, which I will be streaming on the 1st of August, on the release date. And Thank Goodness You're Here is like a slap former, because apparently all you can do is jump and slap, and it's like people aren't aware, a really cartoony like comedy game that apparently takes about 2-3 hours, so we should do in one sitting. And it is basically just a comedy game about like a salesman going to a fictional town within Yorkshire. And, good old Yorkshire, where obviously Carl is from. And
originally, yes.
Stayed in Sheffield for a few years. You say originally, you're in Yorkshire right now.
Undisclosed location.
You're in Yorkshire. I can say the county that you're in.
Say the fact bunker.
You are in the fact bunker.
There we go.
Bunkshire. The Bunkshire, which is inside of Yorkshire in an undisclosed location. But yes, I have heard very good things. The Metacritic rating is like an 87 or 88, so it's been getting very good reviews. It's like the reviews literally came out yesterday, and it's already like the 11th or 10th best rated of the game of the year. And I'll say it should be one of those really like just stupid comedy, like think probably like Saturday morning cartoon kind of vibes, like SpongeBob humor and stuff like that from the looks of it. And just 2-3 hours of going around having a lot of English jokes, I would presume, and just
a lot of tea and crumpets, I imagine.
A lot of tea and crumpets and a lot of bum slapping, as far as I'm aware, or at least one scene of bum slapping will be involved. But yeah, I'm excited to play it. It's been received really well.
Right, a lot, yeah. So.
And I'm like, the fact that there's a game that I can play in one sitting, and B, a game where every British review I've seen has said the comedy holds up quite well.
Which is always that worry, right? Of like, okay, it's humor that's very specific.
Very subjective.
If it's to a geographical region. 1, will this travel? 2, will it be cringy?
And I believe one thing I have been like, not really like spoiled on, but like spoiled on is that the game begins by saying something very English and being like, do you need captions for this game or not?
That's amazing.
And I'm like, okay.
That's like when you watch like Scottish people on American TV and they get subtitles. It's like they're speaking fucking English. Are Americans this bad?
To be fair though, like I did see a TikTok like a little while ago where it was like somebody laughing at their Scouse partner for not understanding how Glaswegian the like workers in their house were.
Okay.
And you could just hear like these Glaswegian people talking in the other room, and I was like, I don't think I understood a single word either of those two men just said.
From very heavily Scouse to Glaswegian, that's quite rough.
Mm-hmm. It is indeed, but yeah, I'm very excited to say that I'll be playing that tomorrow, and yeah, like just hopefully it's something where I can just play it through in one sitting and everyone can come and enjoy it in chat. But Carl, what about yourself?
I was thinking that translation thing reminds me of my ex who was American, where I could not get across to her the word Gior, which people don't know is a contraction of give over, which is
I didn't even know that.
It's a contraction of give over, and it's basically just a sign of exasperation. Like if someone's like, being a bit of a twat, it's like, oh, give over, mate, which gets contracted to Gior or Gior. And she could not get into it. It's Gior. And she would say, Gior. It's like, Gior. She's like, Gior. It's like, Gior. You speak Japanese. How do you not get this? You could learn an entire language, but you can't get one regionalism.
Yeah. And like, I think that's where English gets even more complicated, because obviously a lot of people who come over to England to like work and stuff, like talk about the fact that I learned English for a long time, and then I moved to like one specific region. I don't understand English.
There was a film, it's 51st State, signed Samuel L. Jackson. And it's a really good film, I recommend it, because he spends the entire time wearing a kilt and it's never explained. And just Samuel L. Jackson just rocks up, and it's Samuel L. Jackson and Robert Carlyle.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert Carlyle plays a Manchester United fan who speaks with a very broad Mancunian accent.
Right.
And I think Samuel L. Jackson's reaction is genuine for a lot of scenes, because there's a scene where they go to like a rundown working man's pub in Manchester, and it's like Samuel L. Jackson should never be in Manchester.
And I do think before chat gets angry, I think it's Mancunian. Not Mancunian, but yeah.
I've only seen it written down. I've never heard anyone from Manchester call themselves that, because they just say I'm from Manchester.
It's always Manx, right? It always gets shortened to like I'm a Manc, rather than like a Mancunian.
Like, no one used that. It's like what was it now? We're like Scouse people. They try to say, "Oh, Liverpudlians." Like we're Scousers.
Yeah, just Scousers.
No one from Liverpool calls himself a Liverpudlian. That's what the news calls them.
Mm-hmm. Like a Scouser would just refer to themselves as a Scouser.
But it's just that thing, though, of just like Samuel L. Jackson shouldn't be in Manchester, especially not in a working man's club in Manchester. It's like another one where it's like my dad was going to see Billy Ocean in Doncaster. And Billy Ocean shouldn't go to Doncaster.
Billy Ocean doesn't belong in Doncaster.
When you think like you're Billy Ocean, you've toured the world, you've been on stage with those glamorous, like beautiful locales. It's like when I'm performing next, Doncaster. And he's got to go on stage and pretend he wants to be in Doncaster.
I find it very funny, that story that you told me of like your friend playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla and just being like, I just turned it off because the game wanted me to go to fucking Doncaster.
No one wants to go to Doncaster. But yeah, for my stuff to plug, same thing I plug every week. It is my stream, twitch.tv/Karl Smallwood, and I'll be streaming Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, potentially this weekend because I might be away. But if I'm not, I'll be streaming that game at some point over the weekend, and the stream will coincide with a new Fact Fiend video. If I'm not streaming, the Fact Fiend video will be going up Friday or Saturday. And it'll be Lucas, isn't it, this week?
Yay! That's the thing, I'm like, I don't even know when I'm in Fact Fiend videos anymore, because like, I'm not, job. I used to be the person like editing and publishing them. And it feels very weird to every now and then just see like, oh hey, I'm in my own subscription feed on Fact Fiend. It's like, yeah. It's always weirder when you don't know it's coming.
They're the only two things I have to plug this week.
Excellent, yeah. And just, a quick reminder for those that are watching us live at the moment, if we could just get some extra likes while people are watching live, it helps everyone else find us while we're live. And if there are any super chats made between now and the end of the podcast, Carl and I be sure to read them out.
You are so much better at plugging stuff than I am.
That's why I'm the shill baby. I don't know why I added baby to that, but I'm the shiller of the two. We know that.
The shiller.
I'm like this villain.
Shill Master Lucas.
The shiller. But yes.
The Ghostface Shilla. That's a good name. Joe, that's a good name, nicking that. Ghostface Shilla. And like instead of a
Oh.
ghost face, it's a big $sign. Perfect. Oh, why do I come up with such good ideas on the fly?
Oh dear, that was a good
That's
one.
perfect, right? I just came up with that on the spot. People could see my brain working live then.
The Ghostface Shilla.
Ghostface Shilla with a big $sign.
Oh, glad. I'm glad that we've like managed to merge all of this together and make it cohesive. Because Karl,
Yeah, you tell me about yours. I'm gonna try and like design that mask right now.
well, the thing that I'm talking about today is a lack of dollar bill.
A lack of dollar bill. Tell me about it.
Because the Microsoft Store for the Xbox 360 has been officially shut down.
Gutted.
So you can no longer buy digital Xbox 360 games, which is why I thought I would talk about the Xbox 360, because like this literally officially marks like the canonical death of this console.
Yeah.
Like in Microsoft's eyes, it's fully done and gone now. That is it. And I've already, you know, made sure to purchase my digital copy of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle.
Got to do it.
Got to do it. But like, obviously, you can still.
I'll sketch my idea down to Photoshop it later.
You can still play the 360. It's not like it's going to blow up if you plug it in, but as far as Xbox is aware, it's fucking done. And yeah, if you plug in an original Xbox 360, if any are still alive, it's defo going to red ring now.
It still blows my mind that you could go get an original Xbox 360 without a hard drive, and for a long time, you could play Grand Theft Auto 5 on it.
Yeah.
The fact I think Grand Theft Auto 5 runs on that thing.
I don't know if Grand Theft Auto 5 specifically runs on it without a hard drive.
Not anymore. It used to without a hard drive, but now you need a hard drive.
Because there was a lot of games that would require some level of like installation and patches or whatever.
That crept up, didn't it?
Would require a hard drive or a memory card, Karl.
Yeah, remember when it was optional as well, and now it's like Call of Duty. It's just like, okay, so you don't buy a PlayStation 5 anymore, you buy a Call of Duty box.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what they want, right? That's what.
Of course, yeah.
Realistically, Activision want you to buy a PlayStation that's just all it has on it is Call of Duty.
Well, think about how many consoles are just sold with like, oh, this console comes included with like Fortnite. It's a fucking free-to-play game.
But all Activision want is they want Call of Duty to be the only game on there. Like, just like low-stakes conspiracy theories. I have a low-stakes conspiracy theory that they've set it to be 300 gig because that's just big enough where 500 gig hard drives will basically only be able to fit one game on. You won't be able to fit two big games on there.
Like, yeah, if I install the new... What's the game coming out this year? The Call of Duty this year? Like Black Ops 6 or something?
We don't install Black Ops 6, Lucas. You have to install Call of Duty.
Well, that's the thing, right?
Because that's like 300 gig.
It includes all of like Warzone and Zombies and the campaign and like all the multiplayer shit is. So it's like you don't just install like the Call of Duty game that you want to play. You install hundreds of gigs worth of Call of Duty that you're not going to play.
It. And specifically, you might want to pay for it.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, on my Xbox Series S this year on Game Pass, only certain versions of Game Pass to get the games day one now because Game Pass can apparently keep getting more and more shit. But like, if I install that on my Series S, will I be able to fit another game on there? I wouldn't be able to fit Destiny on there.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be able to have just Call of Duty, the new one, whatever it is, Black Ops, whatever, and Destiny 2 with all its updates. I wouldn't be able to have just those two games on my console.
So what games that you bought then? Like on the final days? Because there's no game that I wanted.
No, I had
Doritos Crash Course, and I'm happy with that. I've got that.
That's the thing, right? Over the years, I'd already bought all the 360 games that were, at very least, digital exclusives that I already wanted. If there's a bunch of other 360 games that I want, there's a lot of options of the games that I do want on physical media still. So I can still just go buy them at, like, you know, on eBay or at CX or something like that. I can still have those options, just play the disc. But
yeah, the one that annoys me is that I had it as a disc and then traded it in, and now it's worth like 50 quid, is that original HD release of Metal Gear Solid 3.
Don't you fucking come at me like that, Karl.
Which is a ball ache to get now.
You say that. I sold Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness
Like
when I
10
was in
quid, right?
uni for like 15, 20 quid, and now it's worth like £500.
It's not so much. It's more like
fuck's sake.
Metal Gear Solid 3 is a great game, and I'd like to be able to play it. But the HD version is so not the HD version that just came out, and not the remake that's coming out later this year. Specifically, there was just an Xbox 360 3-game pack that had all the games slightly upscaled. That was it, and that's all I want. I don't want any extra bullshit. I just want the game with the freeform camera, and that's it. And that version of the game was such a ball ache because rights issues kept impacting it, and that the rights issues would take down number 3. And
Yeah.
you could download like the digital version, but it'd come without the 3rd game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
And like,
I hate rights issues.
then
so
there's
much.
I want to say the Legacy Collection, but I believe that was like a PS4 exclusive, where it's like the HD Collection plus like maybe one extra game plus a couple of extra like art gallery shit, and then there's the Master Collection Part 1 that's just come out.
And then there's Subsistence, and then there's Metal Gear Solid is such a weird franchise for this, and then there's Twin Snakes, which is like locked to the GameCube, and it's the most complete version of Metal Gear Solid 1 because it's a ground up remake with the Metal Gear Solid 2 engine. It's like what we talked about with Mortal Kombat of like rights issues fucking ruin everything.
And like, I think most Metal Gear Solid hardcore fans consider Twin Snakes as a bad remake, right? Because they don't like how much it made certain boss fights easier with the first person and shit.
It's so in Metal Gear Solid 3, the ability to move the camera, as good as and welcome as it is, it makes just traveling around too fucking easy.
Yeah.
You can now just you basically have a drone. You just go, whoop, like people prefer the isometric style, which some versions of the game let you flip between.
I love it when games do that. Like, I think one of the most cool features that is now in a few other games, but the first time I can remember it happening was the Master Chief Collection, where it's like, hey,
yeah,
or it might have been prior to that, because I think there was the first Halo remake was actually prior to Master Collection.
It got folded in, yeah.
But it got put in there. But like the Master Chief Collection lets you flip on the fly between both art styles.
So you can appreciate how good it's. A lot of people played that one. Well, this just looks like I remember it. It's like, no, you remember it looking better because obviously looking back on it, rose tinted glasses. Here's what it actually looked like.
And like, I would love more games to incorporate that feature of on the fly. Just like press a button and it snaps between both rendering modes of like, here's the old version, the original that you think looks like the remaster but doesn't, and here's the actual remaster.
Well, that's the one with like the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake that's coming out. We've now gone full circle on people want the piss filter back.
Mm-hmm.
Joy, because it was like Metal Gear Solid 3, fancy, it was a really good looking game for the time, but it had the piss filter. And the piss filter is just something that was pervasive around that era of video games where just because everything wanted to look cinematic. It's like faux film grain, which I fucking hate. It's like film on film or don't. Don't put faux film grain in.
Every game I ever play with a film grain option, turn it off.
Turn it off.
I don't understand it. Unless it's like Red Dead Redemption, which is going for like that old school Western movie vibe. Like, same with, Ghost of Tsushima, where you could have the
Kurosawa mode.
Kurosawa. I was about to say Kurosaki, but Kurosawa mode, yes. Where, like, that is literal inspiration from these old school movies, and they are, like, putting in specific things to make it look like that.
Yeah.
Whereas just a lot of games just put film grain in because they put film grain in.
And because with Twin Snakes, because it's set during the 60s, and Hideo Kojima's like a huge film buff, he wanted it to be evocative of those old, like, do you know, like the opening crawl of like the newsreels?
Yeah, man, yeah.
There's that, like, I don't know, the sepia tone, I think is the correct term for it. There's that. So that filter is all the way over the game and is built into the lighting engine. And people are nostalgic for it now, like, but it looks so shit. And there's mods to turn it off on the PC version, and the game looks so much better because the models are really, really high quality, but this shit ass piss filter to make it look faux 60s.
Yeah, I can't remember what YouTube channel I watched. Presumably it was more likely to be Digital Foundry than anything else, but can't say for sure that was doing like a comparison of here's the shots from the trailer and here's the shots from the original game, and I was just like, I don't understand why people want it to look like the original game. The remaster, aesthetically at least, just looks better in every way.
Yeah, and it's the lighting is everything's so blown out, and people have explained like, well, that's because it's supposed to be evocative of those older movies where cameras weren't as good, so they had to just blow the lighting out of everything. It's like I get that, but technology that was a limitation of the technology, and I guarantee if you went back in time until they could fix that problem, directors would have jumped on it like a shot.
The only time where I wouldn't approve of the like over super exposed bloom filter being on there was
Oblivion.
the Wind Waker HD remaster.
Oblivion as well. When you talk to like Patrick Stewart, and it's just you're talking to a torch.
It's funny. I would rather Oblivion not look like that, but it is very funny.
It's very funny, yeah.
But yeah, like there's so many games where just that like bloom filter is just obnoxious from around those times, and like I think with the Wind Waker HD remaster where they added in the bloom, it works really well because it's a super bright, cheerful, like cel-shaded, cartoony look where the bloom adds to it. But for most games like Metal Gear, it's like, oh.
And you know what? One day we'll do an episode on Metal Gear Solid 2. Tell me more about the Xbox 360.
Well, it is a home video game console developed by Microsoft, and it's kind of wild, because this is you know just the second console made by Xbox, and it's maybe still the best.
The controller is, yeah.
No. The one thing I don't agree with is all these people saying that the 360 controller was better. It's like,
I'm not saying it's better. I'm saying they came up with a variation of the traditional controller design that PlayStation had basically solidified, and I preferred their version because it just felt heavy. It felt like it was worth money.
Oh wait,
the PS3 controller felt like a cheap piece of shit.
It's very weird because at the time, I agree, PS3 controller sucks ass. It's one of the worst.
Terrible. It feels like it when you were buying them in the day. It's like 70 quid for a new one. This costs 70 quid.
It feels cheap. The triggers are awful. The analog sticks are awful. The 6-axis was awful. It had
proprietary like charging ports.
Yeah, it had like the mini USB instead of micro USB, and like
buttons felt awful.
Yep, and just everything about that controller felt bad. And when I say it's one of the worst, I mean from contemporary times when they figured out, like, kind of...
It's not like the Odyssey, right, or the fucking Jaguar. Like, in modern times, it is the worst because it cost so much and it was so bad. Whereas the Xbox, like, I remember you could pick up those controllers for 20 quid because they had the wired version that was just 20 quid.
Yeah, they were super cheap.
I didn't have an Xbox for a good couple of years, but I had a controller because it was 20 quid. And I could go to my friend's house and plug my controller and play Halo.
And Aaron in chat asks, can you buy 360 games on the One and Series S and X still? I believe the answer is now no. I believe that the ability to buy 360 digital games is just gone now.
I can't wait till I can sell my Xbox with a copy of Doritos Crash Course on it, like an iPhone with Flappy Bird on it.
Like, you can re-download the games if you bought them already. You can still play games physically on a 360, but the ability to digitally buy 360 games from any location is now gone, I believe.
Which is always the bit that's annoying, right? Because that means technically every game is still on a server somewhere. You just don't have the ability to access it.
I get from a business perspective why they do it, because the way that I had explained to me when the 3DS and Wii U stores were shut down is, okay, it costs to host them all and to host the Wii channel and all that, the Wii shop and whatnot. But like, not only that, they have to forever provide customer support for every single game.
That's what costs the money, right? Of like, someone can call up and say, hey, my copy of fucking Ninja Gaiden 2 on the Xbox 360 doesn't work. And it's like, the fuck do you want us to do? We try to sell. But at least this way, it's like, you own it, it's there forever, as long as the servers exist.
Yeah.
But
you don't own it, and it's not forever. That's the problem with digital games, is like, you do not own it.
Right?
You own, like, the ability to borrow the license to play it.
It's like, that's the price you pay for convenience.
Exactly. And at some point, even if you have bought it, there will be a point, presumably, we think, where like they'll go, hey, you can't even re-download Xbox 360 games that you've bought. It might not work like that because they have been very good at Xbox with backwards compatibility and stuff, but at some point, certainly Nintendo are going to be like, you can't re-download fucking 3DS games anymore.
It is wild to me though, because there's some series where I get it, because like, they want to sell the new thing, but something like God of War is the example I like to use of PlayStation really heavily marketed God of War Ragnarok, which is like the 8th game in the God of War series, but they offered you no ability to play God of War 1. And it's like they're selling and marketing the 8th game in a series without providing the ability to play the previous 7 games.
Aaron in chat does clarify that they checked out Curiosity, you can buy them backwards compatible. You just clearly they've shut down
the ecosystem.
The store on the 360, but the games are apparently still available through the backwards compatibility system, which is good. That's very good and very great, but like it just that doesn't particularly impact me as much then because I've got like a Series S, but like it does still kind of always suck at those moments where you see like the Wii U can't be used anymore to buy games, and like the 360 now is just a brick that you can use for discs.
Yeah.
And it always hurts to just see like these beloved consoles that, you know, I've loved for the 360 is nearly 20 years old, and I'm like, kind of sucks that it's just not as useful a console anymore.
But at the same time, it is unreasonable to expect a company to support something like that forever.
I get it. I would like it if we lived in a world where they could. But
they can't.
From a business perspective,
I understand why they don't, yeah.
I do understand that at some point, it just starts being a fucking hole in your pocket of them spending all this money to uphold all this store, provide customer service for that store, provide all like the server space for it, and basically no one's buying any of these games apart from when they're like £1 on sale.
I don't doubt that there's a graph somewhere. That's one of the points of like how many people will be annoyed, and when it falls below a certain thing, it's like, do it. Like, will it trend on Twitter? No, good, do it.
But yeah, I do think, going back to talking about the controller was, I think for the time, a massive step up. I always like the asymmetrical sticks over the symmetrical ones on the PlayStation. Yeah. Because what are the two things you use the most? It's the left stick and the face buttons. And where do your thumbs rest on the 360 pad? It's on the face buttons and the left stick.
Which is one of the things that Xbox did a lot of marketing and a lot of like market research. They just gave people the raw cutout. They didn't have any buttons on it. They gave it and they just asked them to hold it. And then just how do people into it holding it, and where do their thumbs lie? What do we want most games to do? And then they took those models and like drew buttons and stuff on there.
Yep, and just
PlayStation just rests on the laurels of like, well, that's what the PlayStation controller looks like.
That's what the PS1 pad did all those years ago. And guess what? PlayStation launched that controller where thumbsticks were not a thing on the PS1 to begin with.
So what they felt literally tacked on.
Yeah, so they were literally an extra addition that didn't necessarily make sense, but it was just like, guess what? You've got a DualShock now.
Yep.
All there was, apparently, I didn't realize, but something like mentioned not long ago that I saw that like there was actually a step between the PS1 original pad and the DualShock where there was dual sticks but not rumble. And it's like the twin analog stick controller or something.
It's one of those like lost things, right? There's always those things like, oh yeah, because it wasn't a smooth rollout and there was tests and
exactly.
It's like the 6-axis, right? Like the initial 6-axis didn't have rumble, and then later versions did.
Yeah, because rumble's a thing of the past, Carl.
Do you know what is the future? Controlling your game like you're in an episode of CSI, and you go, what? It's like people don't do it. They sit still on their couch, listening to a podcast.
Gone are the days of mere rumble. The future is haptics. Like, what's haptics? Rumble. It's
worse, more annoying, and it makes controllers cost more.
Oh dear. But yeah, like I do think that the Xbox One and then into the Series S and just the refinements they've made over the year on the controllers is better. Like, I kind of miss the triggers on the 360, but I
do miss like the big triggers, yeah.
Well, they weren't very big. If you remember, they're like narrow kind of strips, but they were very like springy. The problem
Very
is they became very squeaky not long after.
Yeah.
Every time I'm like
And I
shooting
remember
on
like the
Halo,
right bumper as well would obviously get a lot of gunk and grime in there, and it'd be like really awful to press, like try to throw a
it'd
grenade
get
in
like
Halo.
sticky rather than pressy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing about the 360 controllers were, as you say, they were relatively cheap, and
the wired
they did last for quite a while. But when the
yeah.
when you're using them for like constantly for 5 years, like wear and tear. But like they were relatively cheap to replace.
Yep. And also the things about batteries. Like I can't wait for in 2 years' time when my PS5 controller just doesn't hold a charge anymore. Like, oh, it doesn't fucking hold a charge. I like watch one Netflix show and it'll turn like your battery's running low. It's like, why is it still on?
Yeah. It's like I had the same problem with the PS4 thing, PS5. Like, I don't think that the standard should be rechargeable batteries because they just the life on them is not great anyway in a DualSense or a DualShock 4.
Phones, right? I can't replace the battery on this. And the battery on this phone dies.
It dies.
I can't replace it. Buy a new phone.
It's a lot cheaper to buy a couple of like a 4-pack of like rechargeable batteries, AA batteries.
£8, they'll last you 20 years.
Than it is to like figure out how to open up your DualSense, replace the proprietary battery in there. Like, you've got to buy that battery, which is going to cost a lot more. And then the fucker's only going to last 4 hours on charge anyway.
Yep.
Like, my Xbox Series S controller, that lasts like 15, 20 hours per like charge of my 10-year-old rechargeable AA batteries.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't get it. It's not that difficult to like just buy a few AA batteries and have that be the standard.
Yeah, but then Sony don't sell AA batteries.
Yep.
They do sell PlayStation controllers. And that's one of the things I really dislike about Sony. Of the PS4, they went through that generation of like, oh yeah, this is how you share games. And they've just consistently, as the years have gone on, made their ecosystem more and more closed off.
I mean, not necessarily, because there was the Vita. The Vita might have been peak.
As a company, they've made their...
The
Vita was after PS4, right?
No, PS3 to PS4. It was at the end of the life of PS3, the Vita.
But they've consistently just made their ecosystem more and more closed off.
Like,
it's like, hey, you need a PlayStation account to play Helldivers? Why?
Yeah, that was
just
not...
Let's play fucking Helldivers.
That was not a very liked thing in the community, and I get that like they gave a heads up of like, that's not here at launch, but it will be, but it still sucks to be like, hey, they're small countries, but here's 80 countries that aren't going to be able to play the game anymore. Oh, okay, so what do you want us to do? Well, you could lie about what country you live in. Okay, but that breaks your terms of service.
Yeah, and you can take the game off, man.
Yeah.
So the one that always gets me is the UMD. Lucas, what does UMD stand for?
It's a, Universal Media Disc?
Yeah, how many things did it work with?
One thing.
The PSP.
PSP.
Universal Media Disc works with one device.
A very...
Universal Media Disc.
Very bold move to call that thing universal.
It didn't even work with other PlayStation products.
No. It didn't even fit in a Vita.
Nope. Universal Media Disc.
Universal. Oh dear, oh dear. And there is a list here of just like the 3 models that came out of the 360, where, obviously the original 360 came out in 2005 and was just the red ring of death machine.
Yeah. Do you remember like some of the hot fixes for it? Did you ever do any of them?
I never did any of them. I did battle for a couple of years while I was a poor student of like a 360 that constantly red ringed every now and then, and sometimes the disc tray didn't work. Sometimes it wouldn't read the disc either.
It still worked though.
It was on like a slow deathbed for a long time.
I remember mine when it red ringed, and it's like someone said put it in a towel. I went, that never fucking works.
And apparently it's because like
it overheats to the point that things reset right.
That like basically there was one of the main problems for the Red Ring of Death was apparently that like the metal on the board would like melt and shift so that it became to a point where it didn't work. I don't know the actual like technical side of it, but like basically just some metal on your chipboard would melt and end up in the wrong place. So the best answer, quote unquote best answer, the best answer was actually to send it to Microsoft, but the best answer was to wrap it in a towel, leave it on overnight so that it would remelt, and hope that things went back to the right place.
The thing is that I'm a fan of those like bullshit solutions to stuff. It's like that. It's like putting like, oh, I dropped my phone in water. What do you do? Put it in rice. So that'll never work. It's like, oh my god, it worked. Put it in rice. Like the rice absorbs the moisture. Or like, I had a PlayStation that would only work when it was upside down.
And yeah,
it's like, I don't know why it worked when it was upside down, but I just knew when I turned it upside down, it worked. It played Final Fantasy.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is like I learned that, like, for some reason, even though it would make more sense for like my horizontal 360 to be able to read the disc in my brain, after a while, I figured out that it was way more likely to come up with a disc read error if it was horizontal rather than stood up.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so I've got to keep my 360 stood up. And then, like, at some point, it was on and off red ringing. And then just, like, eventually it just lost the plot. And I'm not proud to admit that I traded it in to, I think, Game at the time. Went and got, like, £50 credit towards the 360 redesigned slim model.
They didn't check it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they did check it, but it just happened to work. So I was like, this works like 40% of the time. If I can take it in and hope that when they test it, it works, then that's their problem, man.
Yep.
And it did luckily work when they tested it, and I used that towards credit of the redesigned slim Xbox 360S model, which was like this to me is like when the 360 looked good.
I think the Elite as well. I always like the look. I know it's edgy because it was like black.
No, this is like this is what you think of as the Elite. The Elite was a specific model with a certain gig like hard drive size of this version.
But the slim one is the black.
The slim one is the one that they marketed as like the Elite, I believe.
And the thing as well is, if it had started off, it was the black console and they released a white version, I'd have thought that would look cooler. And it's just, presumably at some point they're going to release a PlayStation 5 Slim and it will be black.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll look cooler than the white one, even though I know it'd be the exact opposite if they'd release like that version first.
They did, kind of. Because they just released panels. Like, I've got a black PS5.
Yeah, but I want the original version. I want an official version.
But that is official.
Not panel, I want the console.
But it's the same console.
Yeah, but like when they release a new updated version of the console, they normally invert the colours, is what I'm saying. Like when they did like the Wii started off as white and then released like the updated version of the Wii, they invert the colours.
I was always mad that I didn't get the red Wii. I always liked the red Wii.
It's not like the really little one. It was like the size of a dick. It was like the size of a deck of cards.
There was the Wii Mini, which was only in like Canada or something like that. But like,
that was a cool piece of tech.
That was pretty cool. Of like, fuck it, we're even gonna take out like Wi-Fi capabilities on that shit. There's just this tiny little box that's just all you need is a disc reader.
That was so cool. I wanted one of those so much. Just as like, oh yeah, if I want to play like a Wii game, just
yeah. And I believe it was like, here you go. It was the equivalent of like 90 quid at the time when it came out, and it was like, so do you want a Wii with no capabilities at all other than to just play a fucking game? Well, here you go. It's got no internet or anything. You can't patch games or watch Netflix or anything. It's tiny little Wii Mini. Basically a portable Wii, which was already pretty portable. But
it's like the PlayStation TV. Did you ever see that? Where it was like a deck of cards sized box.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, this thing will play like PS Vita games on your TV.
Yeah.
But because the PS Vita was this like ridiculous powerhouse of a console, it could also play PS3 games, PS2 games, and PS1 games. So it was essentially, here is every PlayStation console up to number 4 on a deck of cards sized device. And they sold it for like a year and then never, because they realized it was too easy to play too many games.
And it was also very easy to hack your Vita to just play, like,
anything.
To just become, like, the ultimate PS1 emulator, right?
Which is what the PS Vita should have been. I don't know why they never sold it as that. They shouldn't have sold it as a handheld PS4. They should have sold it as a handheld PS1.
well, technically this older than handheld PS3.
Yeah.
But then they were like, hey, it can definitely do, even though it already didn't do PS3 games to PS3 quality, can definitely do PS4 games to PS4 quality. It's like, stop trying to bullshit us, it can't.
Baffling, right?
But yeah, we also have the final model, which was the Xbox 360e, which came out in 2013, and I think that coincided with the Xbox One launch.
Let's have a look.
And it looked like an Xbox One, but smaller.
Oh no, that's how they trick people, right?
No, I don't think it was trickery, but I think it was just to try and like.
That's all my sister has.
Oh, okay, yeah.
She still plays on it. She still plays
It's just, hey, we made it smaller and cheaper. It looks bland as fuck, but hey.
There's a nice, cool. There's a blue version of it here. I quite like the look of.
Yeah, I remember they were always good with. They were very good in the 360 time for limited edition version, right?
Even just random colors, like the Gears of War is the gold standard one, right?
That and I think the R2D2 Elite.
That was the white one, right? With all the
blue R2D2 details. Right? Yeah. Like that to me, the Gears of War 2 one where it's the red with the black Gears logo on, with the matching controller. Then there's the R2D2 60E or 360S. Which was like, the elite, like, Star Wars R2D2, and I was like, yeah, that looks incredible.
Yeah, do you want to see, like, the worst controller I got? Because, like, when I had a PS3, this is all I could afford. And I got the God of War Ascension Special Edition PlayStation.
Oh, no.
But they didn't want to commit. So the PlayStation you got is just that one that had the sliding disc tray.
Right, yeah.
And then it came with a God of War themed controller,
and
the God of War themed controller just had Kratos' face on it.
Oh no! I mean, let me know when you put it in.
I've sent it to the thing, but the thing is, it doesn't match at all.
I'm gonna like save this and just put it in.
Like, it's so bad
on the video version because that people need to see how awful that looks.
I traded in that. I said to the guy, "Look, is this a special edition controller?" He went, "Yeah." I went, "How much is it worth?" He went, £60. I went, "I will trade it for any controller you've got on the shelf, second hand or what." And I think I got a pink one. If you remember, I had a bright.
Oh yeah, the pink controller. I was wondering where that came from.
It's still in the box, and I said, "In the box, it's worth £60." Went, "Give me that second hand pink one. I'll use that." I don't. This piece of shit looks terrible.
This does, man.
It didn't even come in special packaging.
Like, that controller looks bad. That console is not even got any God of War detail on it.
That's the thing. It's like, oh, it's a special edition. It comes with a special controller. They didn't even commit to putting like the God of War symbol on the front of it or something.
No, they did not commit to that special edition at all.
And that's why it was cheap.
Yeah, you can tell that's like as the PS3 was curling off.
They just slapped that shit together, right?
Which is weird, kind of, because like the PS3, kind of probably because of this model and because of like the slim and stuff. Like the 360, let's remember, didn't end up beating the PS3, but for the first few years, dominated it.
It's because it was so cheap.
It was way cheaper. It launched a year earlier, and it didn't cost like $599.
And I think we know why it failed. It's because Xbox, they wanted to cut costs. It couldn't natively play DVDs.
No, and it also didn't have Wi-Fi, if you remember.
Yeah, you had to buy a dongle because and you know what? That was a good choice to get the install base in of cheap. Yep. But as Wi-Fi and online connectivity became the standard, those earlier models just couldn't compete. It's like not having an inbuilt hard drive made the console cheaper, but like, you know, you got 2-3 years into a life cycle, okay, Halo 3 needs 21 gig of memory. The internal memory on the Xbox like 1 gig. You can't play Halo 3, the champion IP of the console.
Yeah, and it does say here that like it sold 84 million worldwide, which I believe is like just peaked by the PS3. If I click on the wiki for the PS3,
it's a shame because the Xbox 360 was the better console.
Maybe better's not the right word, but like Obviously, on a technical level, the PS3 was way more advanced.
The PlayStation 3, you could plug a fucking printer into that thing. I tell you what, right? Xbox 360 was more consistent. That initial fat PS3, where it's like 700 quid, it's like, okay, that's ridiculous. But the fact that that initial fat PS3, you could plug your printer into it, it could play PS2 games, it could play PS1 games. People were hooking those things up to use them as fucking microprocessors for supercomputers. It was a ridiculous piece of kit. They just refused to commit to it.
Yeah. And just saying,
if they had done, that would have been perfect. I said you could plug your printer into it.
But then they had that, like, you know, few years near the end of it, where they had the likes of, like, Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3, Last of Us, like, I'm just naming Naughty Dog games, apparently, like, but God of War 3, God of War Ascension, like, they had some very popular, very good games, like, even, like, the Little Big Planet games were massive, right?
Well, yeah.
And, like,
but then again,
the Xbox software and the cheapening of the console, like, the cheapening of the PS3 was what eventually brought it from, like, oh, this thing's floundering and dying, to, like, oh no, it's sold 87.4 million, so, like, 3 more million than
and I think that was good, but it's the fact to make it cheaper, they cut out all the functionality, whereas Xbox added functionality.
Yeah.
As technology got cheaper, each subsequent Xbox got more features, more functionality, more use, whereas the PlayStation 3, they started with all the functionality and they cut stuff out. I remember, like, a friend of mine, he kept his original fat PS3 just because it played PS2 games.
Yep, there was that version with, like, the silver line on it, and it was like, if it has the silver line, that's the one with the PS2 backwards compatibility on it.
Yep, and they removed that feature to save costs, which, you know, helped them in the market share, but it pissed me off because, like, oh, I buy a new one, it's got less functionality than the old one. I don't want to buy a new thing and it have less functionality than the old thing. Whereas with the Xbox, they didn't have that problem. So each time, I think I started with a big fat Xbox, and then when I moved to the Elite a few years later, it did feel like a step up. I can't imagine that was the same for PlayStation players.
No, like, people used to, like, flounder to try and buy the original fat PS3 for the extra functionality.
Yep.
Which is wild to think of, that, like, every other gaming console I can think of, people always just want, like,
the newer one.
Normally the middle version, right? Because normally it's like the S Goldilocks comes out, right? And it's like the slim version where it's cheaper and smaller, but it's not the version that came out right at the very end, which is just like, here's the, like, shit stain that just does, like, nothing and is super cheap.
Stripped out functionality just for people who want to own the console.
Mm-hmm. Like that PS3 you mentioned, like the slide out one, where just, like, the build quality was just notably way worse.
Terrible. It's the only one could afford.
But yeah, it's just like, that's how they get you. Is like, normally it's that middle version is the peak version, but with the PS3, people were just like, hey, every version after the first one just starts slowly taking away features.
They also, as well, like, some of the features they took away was stuff that was really useful. Like that original, like I said, you could plug a printer into that original PS3. You could also put in near enough every single kind of storage, from all the way from, like, micro SD up to, like, the camera stuff. Like, you could use it as a repository for camera photos. You could put, like, PS2 games onto a camera exclusive Sony fucking camera, like, charge card or whatever the fuck it was, and play that. But that was just too much to have, and there was too much to go wrong.
And, you know, speaking of going wrong, just we'll mention here that the original 360 had a number of technical problems, the Red Ring of Death, which we mentioned. Yep. And just, like, the decision that Microsoft eventually made was to extend the Xbox 360's manufacturer's warranty to 3 years. Hardware failure problems that generate a general hardware failure error report, which is the Red Rings of Death, the 3 consecutive rings out of the 4 that flash red. Like, that was the common failure, and it was, like, notably reported to potentially cost Microsoft billions in damages.
And I remember seeing there was, like, a breakdown of it. Microsoft had a bunch of meetings around the scenes that, okay, this is a shit sandwich. we're gonna have to eat it. And I think a bunch of executives were like balking at the idea they had to. I was like, why the fuck should we pay these billions of dollars? They've already bought the console, and they said, do you want them to buy the next one?
Yeah,
That's their reason. Like, do you want them to buy the next one? Because if we do this, you've got to eat this shit sandwich now, or we're dead in this market.
Yeah, it was essentially, as far as like people have said in interviews and stuff, like the conversations were, we're gonna lose potentially billions on this, but if you want to still exist in this market, we need to do this.
Yep.
And it was like, if we don't, you've lost customer faith forever, and you're never gonna sell another console.
Yep.
And
then the next thing they did was, hey,
entertainment, sports, Call of Duty, and it's like, oh, for fuck's sake. God
it's
damn
proof, right, that executives just do not live in the same world as the rest of us. Like, never forget there's that like Nintendo stockholder meeting where, like, I think it was either Miyamoto or Iwata had to stand on stage and smile as an investor. Went, "Hey, mobile games make a lot of money from their players. Imagine if you played a Mario game and they missed a jump, and then a thing popped on screen saying pay 99 cents to jump higher. Wouldn't that be great?" And Iwata or whoever it was on stage went, "No." That's not how games work. That would kill our company overnight. We have spent literally a century building up this goodwill. That would crater it in an instant.
And, you know, they are, if nothing else, like, Nintendo are very smart in the business of just, like, don't want to do anything that, like, you know, they're always in the mindset of, like, keep good faith with everybody, with customers, with partners, with like people in the industry. Just do everything you can to not piss them off over, like, you know, just trying to get cheap, small returns, you know, right now. Is that make sure that you set yourself up where, like, they recently came up with all the generative AI and stuff, and was just like, no, A, we create way better shit than they do, than AI does. But B, do we want to piss off an entire industry that is rallying against this shit? No, we don't. Yep. And even if it is just the ruthless business side of like, hey, we don't want to push people too far because we need money from them later as well.
Yep, and that's what I remember. It was the Xbox 360 thing of like, they were just balking at the idea of having to eat that cost until someone was very sagely pointed out of like, well, we can save that money now, but no one's going to buy our next console. Do you want to save money now or make money for the next 50 years? Like, this will kill the brand. Yeah, like, you literally cannot buy goodwill.
You can't. In
this situation, it's a rare exception. We can buy customer goodwill.
Well, I guess, yeah, but like, it's more you spending money to not create bad will, right?
Yes.
It wasn't necessarily that we're making goodwill because people were still pissed off that they were getting a lot of bought consoles, and I think the failure rate was like 1 in 3 or 4 or something.
Which is bad.
Which is real bad. Which is why it was so apparent that they needed to do this. And like a 1 in 3 or 4, I can't remember which it was, failure rate within the first 3 years. That is terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, when you got one, seemingly you could send it off, get it replaced, and then you've got another 3 years worth of cover. And that's how Microsoft did make it work, because again, the failure rate was that fucking bad.
And also as well, man, we keep people in our ecosystem. And do you want to keep people in our ecosystem? This is how you do it.
And then it's just very funny in hindsight to see them build up a mass amount of good faith. Like, the PS2 was the highest selling console of all time. And then going into the next generation of consoles, they managed to nearly 50-50 the market with PlayStation.
And then cratered it, right?
And just fucking just tore that wall down. And just like,
here's the thing. Yeah.
We've been building this up for years and years and releasing games like, you know, fucking Gears of War 1, 2, and 3, and like Halo 3, and ODST, and Reach, and 4, which all, you know, 4 was a bit mixed, but like, those were the 2 tentpole franchises that did really well. And then it was, as I mentioned earlier, the focus on like entertainment and the all-in-one machine.
we talked about it earlier on a previous podcast, didn't we? Of like when PlayStation walked on stage and just said $299, and it's like Xbox created literally almost a decade of goodwill. Like they spent billions replacing every Xbox 360 that broke to maintain goodwill, and then created it in less than half an hour.
Yep, and like they also had the Call of Duty market right in the 360 era, which they let slip and let the marketing campaign go to PlayStation.
Yep.
And then everyone was suddenly associated Call of Duty with PlayStation, which now they've had to spend 70 billion buying Call of Duty.
It's more the fact that they created it, and I can only think just how insular those executives are. It's like, so you mentioned things like AI and stuff, where you've got all these executives like, no, double down on AI. We don't have to pay artists. It's like, who do you think makes our fucking games? So, we can replace them. With who? The AI trained on their work. What happens when it runs out?
And like another thing with the Xbox One over the Xbox 360 was like the fact that Xbox 360 supported indie games with like the Xbox like arcade,
Doritos
like
Crash
Summer of
Course,
Arcades and XBLA, and then just threw it all away with the Xbox One again.
Yeah, because they wanted to go for the big franchises. It's like, oh, you had like Braid and all that stuff on there.
Like, I remember like some of the early ones that were like Summer of Arcade ones, or just featured early on. You've got things like Braid, Super Meat Boy, like not Inside. What's the one before Inside? Limbo.
Inside was on there though. Inside was fucking sick.
I think Inside
Limbo was the precursor.
I think Inside might have been Xbox One generation, but like, yeah, Limbo was the precursor to that and was excellent. Like, then you had Doritos Crash Course, which is another one that holds up to this day.
Me and Lucas keep talking about it. This is not a joke. Doritos Crash Course is legitimately one of the best platformers.
Especially multiplayer platformer.
It's so good.
Honestly, it is fan-fucking-tastic. And I don't know if you can still get it. I presume you can via the backwards compatibility, because I think it plays
I made sure I downloaded it.
My Series S still, like, so you can still get it. It was just literally, hey, Doritos held a competition of make some good games, and I think there was 2 games that won. There was like Doritos Crash Course and another like vehicle game, and it was just, these are 2 indie games that are legitimately good, legitimately great even, and just Doritos will slap their marketing all over it, slap their name on it, and give it to people for free.
That's another thing as well that Xbox pioneered and then never did anything with, of DLC that was sponsored. Remember when Gears of War came out and the Discovery Channel?
Channel, right? Or National Geographic? Which one was it?
It was Discovery Channel, specifically the show Future Weapons.
Ah.
It was like, oh, Gears of War. And it was like, Future Weapons. They went to them and said, okay, we've released a new map pack. Would you like to sponsor the map pack? And then every player of this game that gets 1 million fucking people per day will see a little notification of, hey, here's a new map brought to you by...
Because I only remember seeing it was like, oh, the Discovery Channel map pack or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was like, hey, here's like, I think it was like 2 free maps maybe, or 1 free map.
Isn't that such a good idea? And how did that not become a standard of offsetting the cost of DLC by having it sponsored? And that way the players get free shit, the company gets like their development cost paid for, and then the person who paid for the it's like, it's a win-win-win for everyone
involved. Talk about
involved.
being able to buy good faith, right?
Yeah.
It's just, hey, oh, Discovery Channel gave me a free map on Gears of War. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, it's 1 million people a week play. And now the thing is, that's the kind of thing they charge for. Like Fortnite charges for licensed content. It should be the other way around. The licensed content should be paying for access to the game. Like in Fortnite, I should be paying for a Star Wars skin. Star Wars should be paying me to run around as Darth Vader. So I'm advertising their brand.
Yeah, true, right? But we're all suckers and all pay like 30 quid for a skin.
Yeah, but that's the thing though, Xbox had that locked down and never did anything with the idea. And that'd have been so genius. How much, like I said, it's win-win-win.
Yeah.
The company makes money, the people get the free advertising, players get free shit.
Yeah.
And instead they went, no, we're going to charge the player every step of the way.
But there is lots of things to talk about 360-wise that was very innovative. But like, just to round things out.
Yes.
Can you pick out a favourite 360 game?
Ninja Gaiden 2.
Real? That would be your top pick?
You know why it's Ninja Gaiden 2? Because every other game that I think has been an Xbox 360 exclusive is on another console. The Master Chief Collection exists. I can go play Halo 3. I can go play Halo 2 and 1.
Okay, but like, what's your favorite game that just originally released on a 360?
Rainbow Six Vegas.
Okay,
I'd say Halo. I played a lot of Halo 3, but the one that got me to get one was Rainbow Six Vegas 2. Like, I played so much Halo, but I also played a lot of Rainbow Six Vegas with my friend because we got really, really into the terrorist hunt mode.
Yeah.
I'll never forget when I booted up the console. We were checking how many kills we had, and it was the population of a small country. And I will never forget the most hero thing my friend ever did when he was playing Rainbow Six Vegas is when we played Terrorist Hunt, which is just 40 terrorists on the map. Go find them. And we were down to one terrorist left. And he was like, I was sniping on a rooftop to help him. And I got annihilated by a guy with a shotgun from behind. And my friend Tom, who took it really seriously, went, for Karl. And he pulled out his Desert Eagle and sprinted across the rooftop. And the guy took a shot, but he went, He got all the way up and put the Desert Eagle like inside the model of the terrorist, pulled the trigger, and then went for Karl, and then just opened fire into the air. And I was like, it is the hardest I have laughed playing a video game.
God,
like that's the thing gaming's made for, right? Those like they call it the battlefield moments and stuff of like just or emergent gameplay, like or Helldivers has kind of taken that crown now of just like the moment.
and like it's hard for me to narrow it down because there's so many, but like some like absolute bangers that I just would like to mention. Obviously, I did the classic thing like a lot of people did. Christmas 2007. Asked for a 360 for Christmas. Got that. Halo 3 Modern Warfare. Obviously, like
What
that was
Christmas. That was
that Christmas was like Halo 3 and Modern Warfare. That was it. For like everyone.
What a collection of games. And then Gears of War 2 came out the next year, and it's like, oh.
But yeah, like Gears of War 2, like I think it's the peak of that trilogy. Just like fucking what Binding of Isaac came out on 360. Like obviously we got like the Rebirth version now, but Binding of Isaac is fantastic. Like,
that's why I say like the only game still locked to the consoles. Like there's different versions of Ninja Gaiden 2, where the Xbox 360 version was unequivocally the superior version because the one on the PS3 was Sigma, which changes things and makes it worse. The version that you get in the remastered, like Master Ninja Collection, is the version on the PS3, and it's like that's not the good version of the game. So that the best version of the game is locked to the Xbox 360, whereas every other game that I like on it, you can play elsewhere.
Yeah, and there's like just like the member berries, like fucking Rock Band, Left 4 Dead, Left 4 Dead 2.
I never got into Left 4 Dead, but I do recall because I was just all in on Call of Duty. But Left 4 Dead was like an experience. I remember when I met people who played Left 4 Dead. It was you actually, and you had it on your console. And you had like 800 hours on there or something.
Yeah, that was always one of my favorite local multiplayer games to play, and like that and that Halo and Portal, obviously Rock Band as well. But like Rock Band was generally when like you got multiple people around and like proper Rock Band night and stuff. And then, yeah, just, I mean, someone mentioned in the chat, just like Peter mentioned, Dead Rising, of like, so excited for that Dead Rising remaster to come out.
That sold me on console. I remember I had a copy of Games Master with like the preview of Dead Rising in there, and I just kept rereading it because I was so excited to play it. And it was like 2 years. And I remember playing the demo, that 20-minute demo, over and over over again.
And like, that's the thing, 18 years later.
The demo. We don't get demos anymore.
I'm just so fucking excited to like play Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster or whatever it's called. Just that game looking nicer, I'm like, yeah, I'm all in.
But that's the thing, we used to get demos.
And every single game had a demo. That was one thing that Microsoft mandated, was everything gets a demo. Which I think was one of the coolest fucking moves.
Try before you buy.
Yeah.
There's kind of that sometimes, I think, like PlayStation, sometimes like you can play it for 2 hours.
Well, that's on like the high tier of PlayStation Plus, right? It's not just here's a free demo for every game.
First 2 hours of a game might fucking suck. Give me the vertical slice.
Yeah.
Sell me your game. And if you're confident in it, give me a demo. Let me play it.
Yep, totally. I've been waffling on way too long about the 360. I just love the 360 so much. I'm glad to hear that like the backwards compatible games are still going to get some life, but there's going to be a lot of games that were like digital exclusives that didn't have the backwards compatibility that just are now gone.
Yep, because the only version of it you can get is the remastered version, and it's not the same game.
Yeah.
They changed too much. Remember when we did the playthrough on my channel? I had to go track down the original disc. Because you can't get the digital version of it anymore.
But at least you can get the disc.
Get the disc, yeah.
Whereas some games that were digital exclusives that just are gone now.
Doritos Crash Course. If you've not got it, fuck you, I have.
Like, I think you should, if it includes backwards compatibility games, like, you should be able to go get that still. If anyone hasn't tried Doritos Crash Course, it's still really fun.
We're going to have to do a stream, aren't we, at some point?
Yeah.
We're going to have to stream Doritos to show people how fucking sick
People never believe us when we're like, that Doritos game. It's like, what do you mean that Doritos game? Shut up. It's like, no, that Doritos game is great.
It's so good. It's always my go-to of like, what's your, your favourite party game? It's Smash Bros. And that.
It's a real good game. Just the fact that you can do 4-player split screen competitive, like total wipeout style courses of platformers. Like, I would just wish there was more content in the game. I just wish there was more levels.
It feels like one of those things where that should have been trials, right? Of like, again, trials. Oh, Trials was so... I used to love... And then remember when they released a new version of Trials, and it's like, oh, it's no longer split screen. It's like,
yeah.
What the fuck are you doing?
What are you on about? Like, just take me back to Trials Evolution.
Yep.
That's all we needed that game to be.
My friend downloaded the updated version of Trials. He's like, okay, how do we play 2-player? I went, oh, it's not 2-player, it's only online. He just deleted it and downloaded Trials Evolution.
Yeah.
Like, speaking of, like, something that the new version has less functionality than the original.
Yeah, Trials Evolution, man. It was all that game ever needs to be. It was peak Trials.
God, we need to play Trials as well.
Yeah.
Like the long jump mission where you got like the... It's great.
And the fact that, like, I believe in Evolution, if you bailed off your motorbike by blowing up your motorbike, you could rock over the finish line and win. Whereas in the later games, they made it so that doesn't count as a win.
Because they said it wasn't competitive. It's like it 100% is. It's risk reward.
Yeah.
Because if I fuck it up and don't go far enough,
the amount of times where I did it a little bit early, and my body was like this far away from the finish line, I finished last.
Yeah. But also, it's one of the hypest things of when you just fuck it and rocket yourself over the finish line. And I remember doing that in the new version, and it didn't count.
And it was just like, nope, you bailed out. It's like, what do you mean? I went over the finish line. I won.
It's like, I'm the person in the race. My bike isn't the one racing. I am. It'd be like in Formula 1, innit? If someone in a Formula 1 race got out of their car and sprinted around the track, that counts as their win, right?
Trials Rising, I think, was before Revolution, but I basically, at the moment that Trials Evolution happened, it was like, that was it. And then my brain has just shut off every single Trials afterwards because they were never as good.
They made them worse because they kept trying to put too much stuff in.
They kept removing multiplayer and stopping you being able to bail out in multiplayer, and it was like,
it's like Burnout, right?
I'm done.
Where Burnout just, okay, what do people like? People like driving around the city challenging other races. No, I like crashing cars. How is it complicated? You crash cars. That's what people want.
Honestly, if Burnout Paradise had crash mode, which it did like kind of half add
download it
in a future update, but like if it had proper crash mode from the beginning of how crash mode worked in Burnout, like Revenge,
every other Burnout,
and it had local multiplayer, that would have been the perfect Burnout game.
Yep.
It was not unfortunate, but like that's the thing. I love Burnout Paradise. I love Burnout Revenge, but ultimately because you can play local multiplayer, I'd always rather play 3 and Revenge over Paradise.
Yep.
Just let's stop dragging this out, Carl, because we've gone on for way too long.
Yeah, we have.
I love this generation of games. I didn't even mention Mass Effect 2.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Save for another day.
Exactly right. Another fantastic game. Go watch us play Mass Effect on Mondays. Mass Effect Mondays on my Twitch.
Cheers for watching, everybody.
Come and watch me tomorrow play Thank Goodness You're Here. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening, and hope everyone has a lovely
Cheers.